Can we put Peter like right here? Or?
There's plenty of seats.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter to me.
Daily.
Oh, really? Okay, that's out of town.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
Notice is hereby given that the board of directors of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District of Jefferson, State of Colorado, regular meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, April 11, 2023, at 13919 West Utah Avenue, Lakeland, Colorado 80228. This meeting will be held for the purpose of conducting such business as may come before the board. This meeting is open to the public. Virtual meeting option. For those who may not be able to attend in person, the district will offer the option of participating in this meeting via video/conference call. To attend, please go to https://us06web06.us/us/895-3322-5776 or call 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID 895-3322-5776. To troubleshoot issues with the connection at the time of the meeting, please follow this link: https://hc/sections/hc/200305593-troubleshoot. If you still experience issues, email customer service at greenmountainwater.org and our IT staff will assist you as soon as possible. The district does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability in the provision of services. People with disabilities needing reasonable accommodation to attend or participate in a district board meeting can call 303-985-1581 or email customer service at greenmountainwater.org for assistance. Please give notice as far in advance as possible so we may be able to accommodate your request. Agenda item number 1, call to order, declaration of a quorum. Jeff Baker present.
Todd Hooks present. Dave Wickman present.
Roger Van Dillon present.
Karen Morgan present.
All 5 directors are present. I declare a quorum. I will close agenda item number 1, move to agenda item number 2, directors matters and disclosure matters. Do anybody need to have any disclosure discussion? Okay, we'll close agenda item number 2. Open agenda item number 3, approval of additions to and deletions from the agenda. Do we have any of that? Oh, okay, seeing none, we'll close agenda item 3. Move to public comment, agenda item number 4, limit 5 minutes per person. Per past motion of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Board of Directors, May 11, 2021. Members of the public wishing to address the board during the public comment period are asked to keep the comments civil and related to the items in the agenda or to the conduct of district business. Members of the public wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board to maintain proper decorum. Since Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board values your input, we always offer additional opportunities for the public to provide comments by using the district's email system or by phoning in customer service in the event they do not get on during the meeting during the period set aside for public comment.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's on this guy here, we can have a discussion in which I'm able to speak or am I not able to speak during this time?
That was for city council discussion.
So basically, this doesn't change. I wouldn't be allowed to be included in this discussion in my voice. I just want to clarify before I said my comments.
We had not planned on that. Do
Okay.
we want to change that?
I would, if I may, I would ask that Peter be allowed to be part of the discussion and represent the citizens of that area. Get his opinion on it. Because I'm going to, if anything happens with city council, I'm going to need citizen backing. And so I would like to actually have him participate, get his opinion on stuff.
I move that we let him participate.
To open it to all public?
Yeah.
So we invite the.
So just, as long as we don't get, too blocked and stuff, we gotta be able to have.
Yeah. I mean, in ideal case, I don't know how your guys' agenda or schedule works, but if you either do that first, then we could, I can kind of help you on from there, if that works for you guys. But
Yep, that's fine. So you want to forego your public comment and then you'll just jump in when we get into the Ravine Bridge
That works, I'm sorry to ask again, on the agenda where that is relative. to-
right after this.
Okay, yeah, let's just do that, and then I'll save my comments for the next one.
Okay. Okay, so do we have anybody online wishing to, Dave, do you want to speak?
Only to the point that I hope that sometime tonight you find a place in the agenda to discuss the Fed Center project.
It's on there.
It's on there? Yeah. I withdraw.
Do we need copies of the agenda?
Sorry.
Can you get some to Peter and Katie, right?
Yes, thank you.
Wait.
Is there anybody online? Raise your hand. Don't see anybody online. So I'm going to close public comment. And then we're going to open up agenda item number 5, which is discussion with the Lakewood City Council regarding Ravine Bridge negotiations. So we have Council Member Over is the only representative in Lakewood. We had a discussion with members of the public that wanted to be able to address the city council and the board, and the board did allow that. So we will kick this off. So there is a discussion talking points here. Everyone can go to that, and I will go ahead and open it up. Yeah, Karen, we'll start with the role of city council and the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Board in negotiations.
Thanks. Thank you, Councilmember Oliver, who would rather be called Rich, so I will do that from now on, but thank you for coming. I kind of just wanted to go over a few points while we have you. It seems like we've got a lot of misunderstandings that keep going on. So, for example, I thought we'd start with the role of what we are all doing here. The Board of Green Mountain Water and Sanitation has taken up this issue of the Ravine Bridge and who pays for what and how we're going to do things. And we talk about this at all of our meetings. And you talk about it thanks to public comment at the city council meetings, but this is not normally something that would come to city council as an issue, or it could be if you voted to take it up. As far as I know, that has not happened. So what is the normal role for city council on an issue like this, where you have not voted to take it up?
It's really, I asked, after you invited all of us to come here, I asked the city if they would provide a staff member to come and give the views of the city. Like last Thursday, I sent an email and said, hey, can you, and so I've never heard of things, as you can imagine, but actually, city council doesn't have a lot of authority here. It's usually staff doing all of this stuff. However, this has just gone on too long. And I know, as you mostly all know, I actually got involved in this when I was running for election in June of 2020, 21, yes. Carry the one. And so, yeah, with your guys' recall. And so I've been aware of what's going on here for quite a long time. But of course, the city is not giving us updates to council. And when I ask for things, they don't give too much out. However, so it sounds like city council doesn't have too much of a role. However, I'm just tired of this languishing, and a city councilor can make a motion at pretty much any meeting. And if we can come up with a plan to move forward tonight, I will bring that forward and make a resolution or a motion in a city council meeting. and I have an outside chance of getting it passed. There's definitely some people that would vote along with it, and there's some other people that I think are paying a little bit more attention these days. And so it's not out of the question that I couldn't get something passed. So it's, what I'd like to do here tonight is play the role of devil's advocate for the city side and see if we can't come up with something. I would like Peter to represent the residents, and so that we'd have like 3 entities really. And see if we can't hammer something out. You guys have proposals, the city has proposals. The one thing I did hear recently is like they're waiting for your reply to their proposal. And so hopefully I can get that tonight at least to take back.
Well, let's go through that a little bit, but that's a good point.
We have to delineate some things, so
Sure.
this gets back to, Katie, Peter, so, and why I haven't been responding, I just didn't have anything more to update. There is a fiduciary responsibility that this board has, there are swim lanes, that there's things we can do in fund, and there's things we cannot do for fun, for the, legal advice. So going back to the origin of when this kicked off, this was 4 years ago, there's been nothing but pushback from Lakewood, who, by the way, started this whole thing, which is interesting. And you get into whose responsibility for what items in terms of infrastructure are they? And we talked about the fact that these things over time they morphed into, and I have the historical thing of actually being one of those kids when there were no homes here. I wandered around on those things, They were bridges when there weren't any homes here, there weren't fences and everything like there are now. So I understand everything you guys are saying and going through. The problem is it came up and then it's like, well, who does own these things? Who is responsible for this? Who is responsible for that? And Lakewood basically deflected all responsibility at a certain point back onto Green Mountain Water and Sanitation. That cannot happen. We don't do bridges. We don't do parks. So we've tried to, and stop me if I'm out of line. We've been trying to get into the thing of what would be, fair to, if we've got these cohabitation issues, right, where we have a sewer pipe structure, pipe hanger, and they have been used for bridges forever. And it's like, I think each of us have to pick up our side of the load and carry that thing. But Green Mountain cannot and will not be in the bridge business in a park district. We just can't. So we need to have Lakewood, whose park it is, whose supposable bridges, because it's in their infrastructure. It shows you guys carrying these in your infrastructure inventory, your asset management sheet. So, we covered all this. We had negotiations with the city attorney, who that really didn't go well and didn't go far. And so things have kind of keep kicking back. They're like, well, it's on us. It's not on us. We have stated our position. We are pretty clear on that. And we are waiting for Lakewood to belly up to this negotiation and take ownership of their part of the park.
Can we address the letter from 1994 where, was it the city manager, Jeff, who in 1994 had the letter where they,
2004.
2004,
Yeah.
where the city manager, was it the city manager?
I think it was the city engineer.
City engineer went over how Lakewood owned all of the bridges, all of them went over every single thing they owned, including all of those. Yet today, it's in their asset list, but there's only 3 assets that are no longer they consider theirs, and those are the 3 bridges. But bridges in all the other parts are considered theirs, which doesn't, from a logic standpoint, from my mind, doesn't make sense. But when the city engineer tells you that they own the property and now the city says they don't, that's very confusing to us as citizens.
Well, and whether or not, look, it just seems like it's something that has been never clearly defined. This goes all the way back to trying to identify who actually installed these, who actually owns them, who actually transferred ownership. And that's not very clear. We have some forms, some documents, but not much more than that.
Can I jump in just with a quick question?
Yeah.
Has Green Water responded to the proposal from Lakewood's, back from previous, like, a month ago? Has there been an official response to
March
their?
14th letter. It's the
There was.
March
Okay.
14th
Yeah.
letter.
No.
No, I don't think they responded.
Oh, so you have,
Green Mountain has not responded formally to the last
okay,
formal proposal from Lakewood.
may I ask why?
It came the day of the last meeting, and the board hasn't met since then. This is the first meeting since that. letter
Got
was
it, so
received.
you guys don't communicate between now, between board meetings?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we schedule things, but yeah, we don't have substantive
Got
conversations.
it. We're basically,
From February 8th.
No, it's the letter, the email from Alex.
No, you should have a copy.
Yeah, that was
March
received
14th
the last
email.
meeting.
so in that regard, we basically were in one month chunks of any progress that could be had. Is that a best? Okay.
Well, we cannot gather in groups of 2 or 3 or more because it becomes a quorum.
Yeah.
And we're by law not allowed to do that. So anything we do has to be spread out either individually or amongst us, and we cannot even meet via email, like we cannot include other email chains.
But we
Because-
could call a special meeting, which we have, and the city has that same option. You could call a special meeting to discuss any option that they would like. It's just that we already have enough, we do have enough meetings, nothing is going on with these proposals. In the case of the city council, this is just one of those exercises where you say, if they wanted to call a special meeting, they have the mechanism. This just is not a topic that the city staff is handling. This.
So here,
So far, yeah.
here is basically your evidence right now. Look at these empty spots. This has gone on for 4 years. And this is my frustration. This is what happens. There's a lot of deflection. There's a lot of, like if you ignore it, this isn't working for me. And this has not been something that's been on a back burner. Ravine Bridge has been on almost every single board meeting for 4 years. And it's like, in the frustration, and tonight, this is it. We've got one council member here, and this wasn't just dropped on them.
Yeah, I guess we went through that. We were just totally new to this meeting and actually having this content for this meeting. So could you provide some background as to when that was communicated to the city? And also another thought there is that we actually weren't aware that this would be a topic into this detail with the city invited until we got here. So maybe if some background on that would be excellent. And then if there is no background on that, maybe as to what we can be doing better in the future so that we can communicate with ourselves. So we can, we wouldn't be alone tonight 100% if we knew this was happening. And also we were at the city council meeting yesterday. We certainly would have brought that up if we had known this was going to be on the agenda today to this, this detail. I see what you're presenting here, but I also at the same time feel like it's a bit unfair when we actually didn't understand that was occurring, and we definitely would have pushed for that, for others to come and others to join. I just texted the mayor as well. Obviously, it's crazy short notice, so for me to communicate to him, I don't know what you guys have, but I guess my point there is that we would appreciate a better way to get the information to us earlier so that we can prepare accordingly. I think that would be helpful.
So
You want me to
Jeff,
answer all that?
yes, please.
Okay, so the way it works like this, everything's on our website. So the board packet is posted on the Friday before the website.
Yep.
And it contains the agenda that's in front of it.
Yep.
So by law, all of our meetings are scheduled the second Tuesday of every month. So,
Okay.
so if you want to go to meetings the second Tuesday every month, that's under the Department of Local Affairs by law.
Okay.
And then the board packet, by law, the agenda has to be put out 24 hours in advance, but we put it out the Friday before. So just write down, check the Friday before,
Yeah.
check our website, there's the agenda. All of city council were invited 3 weeks ago, they were invited twice on email. We did get a letter from Mayor Adam Paul responding, he wasn't gonna come.
Okay.
So everybody was invited 3 weeks ago, plenty of time, and everything's posted by following all the laws under Title 32.
Can I add one additional question? Was this posted?
The discussion points?
Yeah.
No.
Okay,
That
so
would just be our informational.
yeah, I guess I would just add, like, this is actually super helpful to understand that these would be discussion points.
Oh,
Um,
everything else is, you probably haven't read the website, like the letter to Kent Nolan.
I have not, no.
You know, the March 14th, you know.
I read the March 14th one, but I did not read, or I guess I did not
Yeah, the
see.
letter to Kent Nolan. The discussion points just came out today.
Yeah, okay,
So not to, but it was not, this was not intended to be, and I know we kind of modified it a little bit, but this whole public thing, so you knowing, I kind of figured you guys were watching on the agenda. But
yeah,
I'm willing to say that this is one of those things that if we wanted a big public forum to do, we would have scheduled a meeting for that, just to do. But I would like to just caution that we don't get into this whole backlog of discussion, and let's try and make some process and be done, because we do have a whole agenda for tonight. So maybe we can cap this at 7 and say, because we do have.
yeah. And understand that, maybe to add to that, I just did want to definitely say thank you for allowing me to speak. I think it's super helpful, especially as you guys are meeting every month. And if we aren't actually, if we don't have the opportunity to do something like this, it's really difficult to communicate. You know, other than email, which isn't working. So having any chance to discuss, at least to give our points of view live is super helpful, and we really appreciate it.
I would add that, yes, all the city councilors did get invitations individually.
Got it.
And there was some discussion. I thought actually Councilor Abel, I heard that he was gonna come tonight, and I heard maybe Mayor Pro Tem Strong was gonna come, but
Got it.
obviously not.
Yeah, and on our side, we're just,
And last night I would have told you, but if I don't, you didn't know.
yeah, no, it's good.
But
We're just,
in actuality, I would like you being the representative, as opposed to 20 people coming in and we all talk, and it takes a really long time. But you're the point man.
yeah, no, for us, we're just aren't privy to that information. So if we're asking questions that are obvious to you guys, it's because we just literally don't know.
Well, so to Rich's point, you know, the council seems to have, yeah, they don't get to kind of get, they don't, I don't know what, I don't even know what to say. The key person with Lakewood is the city manager. That's who runs everything. Is that a
That's
way to
true.
say
Very
that?
true.
So that's who really should be here tonight. And just so you know, I go to school board meetings, I'm all over on a lot of different meetings, and she's there all the time. It's odd that tonight she's not here because she is everywhere. So there's some selective attendance thing here, because I do see her around quite a bit at different meetings. So I'm a little discouraged that she didn't show up, because she does run this city. So
I would have, I mean, she does run the city.
yeah,
But I would have been fine, when I asked for a representative to come tonight, I was asking for the lawyer, Alex. And Kit Newland, the head of community resources, would have been a good substitute there, or even the next one down would have worked out well.
right. But
But
to your
somebody-
point, it's about
somebody-
staff running the city, not council. And then if that's the case, then my expectation, you know, and I understand Peter and Katie's frustration like with us, but it's like my frustration is with the Lakewood city staff. We've been on hold for 4 years. It's like, show up. Let's get something done. Because, yeah, I hear you guys, we see you, and, you know, we have been trying to do this, and I'm out of patience with that. I'm out of patience with Lakewood. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, could I take the floor for a few minutes or so? I still think, you know, between the three of us, we could come up with something, a path forward, at least a rough outline or something. And so if I were doing that, I would love to start at what we all want first, and then see if we can't figure out, because, I mean, the city, from the city point of view, they have made a proposal on March 14th, and you guys haven't responded to that, so I'll be definitely asking about that. But what do each of us want out of this whole thing? And I would summarize it really easily in that we all want bridges kept open. No, actually, you guys don't hear. But Lakewood wants those bridges kept open, and the citizens want those bridges kept open. And you guys want to make sure that you're not liable for things. I agree with what you said. You are not in the business of parks.
It's not necessarily, yes, it's not necessarily like just the liability. It's the swim lane, right? We do sewer and water.
Right.
And in our world, in our fiduciary responsibility, we can only be responsible for it, that thing as being a pipe hanger.
Right.
We cannot, under any circumstances, vary from that and like, oh, we're gonna be a park bridge or it's whatever. It can't be anything but a sewer pipe hanger or a water pipe hanger or an access to something like that. For the staff, it cannot be part of a park system. So.
Right, but as a pipe hanger, you would be willing, the board would be willing to go along with it also being a bridge, as long as, what conditions?
Can I walk through the proposals, which was the next item on my little discussion?
Yeah, but I mean, we do kind of agree, I think, it's like, we don't want to tear them all out and cost them hundreds of
I
thousands of
don't
dollars
think
to
we do
you.
agree on that. No, we do not agree on that.
Okay, so.
You may agree on that, which I think is very sensible of you, but I think your organization does not agree on that.
Does not agree with exactly.
So let me go through. We got a first proposal, if that's agreeable with everybody.
Do you mind starting and prefacing with, I see your notes here, and can you confirm which one of these column sets refers to which proposal you're trying to make? Because it's not clear.
No, I've got the old one. Do you have?
This one?
Yes, one that says, now, first, I'm gonna go back and say the first proposal that we got from Lakewood said the bridges were ours and they'll take care of the incidentals. And they did that by saying, and you understood they'd be paying for some costs, but it was the incidentals of the insurance and the surface maintenance. There was nothing towards the structure and the erosion.
And that was
Yes.
prior to March 14th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We countered with an offer to split the costs, paying whatever it would cost us to build the trestle that would just support the pipe. And if they wanted to go over that amount, they would come up and pay that. So that is actually number 2 in the middle proposal of these costs that I have laid out. That's what we have suggested.
Got it. But did you guys, there were also 2 additional proposals from March 14th that aren't on the sheet.
No.
Okay.
Then we got another, in response to this middle one, they proposed that we do essentially the same thing as the first proposal from the city,
Okay.
except they outlined that they will take all the ownership until it needs fixing, and then we'll take it back and we'll fix it, and then we'll give it back to them. And no one in there, we do not have an official position on this, but no one in their right mind would do that. Who would give a person a car, who would give a stranger a car, say, drive it until it runs down, and when it breaks, we'll pay for a new one for you, and then we'll give it back. That is completely fiscally irresponsible, and there's no way I would support anything like that. So we do not have an official stand, but I am very strongly opposed to that ridiculous offer.
So.
That is
let's stick to
The
that.
top of it.
Let's stick to that for just a second. So, I mean, I should be taking back your position. So
Yes.
that, I saw that, on the Lakewood proposal, and I went, well, that's odd. And I would agree with you. It's like changing things like that, that didn't make a lot of sense. An additional option is to agree to an automatic reversion of ownership back to Green Mountain Water should any structure fail and need to be replaced. That was, so basically, no, is what you're saying on that little thing.
That is what I am saying. That is not what
Well,
we
it saddles us with
No, I
creating
see it.
bridges and parks, which is not what the water district is authorized. to. We're not even authorized to do that.
Well, let me jump in here. I don't know if that's the right interpretation of this. It may be that the proposal is Green Mountain gets it back, the failing structure, to do with as it pleases, including at that point replacing the trestle.
This could be, except that we now have the further language in March that says where they talk about, right? Let's delineate some language so that we see your concern, and you offered other language. And we're still talking. Their response is, well, yeah, let's talk about it. They see that. So we're gonna be talking about that forever. So there's two options out there already where they can come up with something and they haven't taken any of those. So that is why there's a third option where it just shows that, please, Dave, come on, I know this is echoey in here. That it just doesn't, it's not cost effective for us to even consider this, because it keeps us on the hook for pedestrian bridges. Now, if there is a way to split the costs, but that would show that there is some dual use and that we need to do that. So I would start with what I outlined first. You're gonna need to figure out some way to split the cost so that they would have to build a pedestrian bridge.
Split the cost.
On building a pedestrian bridge, we will build a trestle.
Well, what you're really saying though is we are willing to build the pipe hanging, the structure to hold all of the piping. We're wanting the city of Lakewood to be responsible for the actual bridge portion, not just like if our pipe is, I'll just make this up, if our pipe is $100,000 and a bridge is $200,000, we're not saying, hey, you know, we'll just pay 150 or whatever towards it. We're saying we want to pay for our stuff. We would like the city of Lakewood to pay for the bridge part for their part.
Well, we've always proposed that, and here's another thing when we're talking about fiduciary responsibility. This cost has doubled in the 4 years that we have sat idle. So we're all worried about money, right? But then here we are, it's already doubled and gone way beyond that. So by sitting on our hands, or Lakewood sitting on our hands, we've now doubled the cost because of time. So there's another thing I get upset about when we talk about fiduciary responsibility, and because we couldn't get anything done all these years, here we are, now it's double. So are we gonna be, how long are we gonna keep doing this dance?
Well, let's end it tonight.
I would if I could. I would have ended it 2 years, 4 years
At
ago.
the end of the day, you don't want to be responsible for pedestrians walking.
Correct.
Yes, and Lakewood doesn't want to be responsible for the sewer pipe. And I think that it's really simple. That's like, it's up to you guys to take care of your sewer pipe. It's up to Lakewood to take care of our residents so they can walk across the bridge. And one of the ways we can go is like just start from scratch and say, okay, Lakewood's going to build a bridge. You're going to close the thing you have, put in a new hanger on the middle bridge, and Lakewood is just going to build their own little bridge. And then maybe that's the way it gets to, but I'd rather it didn't, because I think both of our entities are going to pay the most.
Well, you will pay the most, and I don't know if you guys have been tracking on this, but Lakewood said they didn't hear about the other two bridges. And I know that the residents like those other,
I thought they said they didn't care.
I thought it was the two other
I
bridges.
think it's the middle.
So
They
there's,
have told us that.
so,
Right, but in the last written communication, they said that they did care about the north and south, and they didn't care about the middle.
They said they would take it because it didn't need fixing today. They did not say they wanted it.
They said they would take ownership over the north and the south.
Right, anything that doesn't need money.
Yes, well.
That's what they're saying. But when it needs money, they
Yeah.
want to dump it. They do not have any long-term interest in the middle or south bridge.
and the final thing too, we talked, you just said erosion, we had an erosion issue. Was created by Lakewood's not managing its parks and allowing pedestrian usage, which actually was the root cause of what Lakewood came to us, like, oh, we got an erosion issue, which is weak structure, that's where we started. They found it, they told us, and this is how it kicked off. And it's like, what have they done since then to mitigate the erosion issue in their park?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Because all the paths have just created water pathways, correct? I mean, it has just created a system where the water flows via the paths to these structures. So it creates its own erosion system, but nothing has been done to rectify it.
Well, you look at the other parks like that,
Maybe
Green Mountain, you know, they shut down trails, right? When you start getting too rutted, you know, they start becoming water channels, right? So they'll shut them down, let them kind of revegetate, kind of come back. So that's another thing. There needs to be some mitigation of what's going on with the road. Well, they offered it, should be doing it. It's part of the park stuff, so.
Can I ask if Green Mountain Water has ever paid Lakewood any leasing fees for having their pipes being held by the structure that are owned by Lakewood? And historically, have you ever paid any fees?
It has been a dual use, public benefit bridge.
Got it. So historically, Green Mountain Water has never paid anything to Lakewood to use their structure as in they're hanging their pipes from.
No, the water rate, all of that was put in at the beginning of the original development. There was no bridges to start with.
They were.
So all of it was done by the developer prior to anything before Lakewood ever touched it. So it was
Understood.
only a water and sewer system.
But maybe a better way to phrase my question would be, for the last 50 years since that has been in place, and the infrastructure has been there, and Green Mountain Water is utilizing that infrastructure, they are essentially not paying for the ability to hang their pipe from said structure.
Well, so using your logic to me, then that means that every water thing that runs under every road, we should pay for. Every water, every sewer that runs everywhere in Lakewood, we should be paying for, and that's not.
That's not a city park.
Well, it's same thing to me, it's still city property, no matter how you look at it.
It's just one point, and the other point, I guess, relative to your columns here, is you have, like, why are you including the north and the south bridge in the ×3? When currently there is no need to fix
We
this.
are making a deal for that today.
For what does that mean?
Whatever we decide today affects
Yeah.
everything downstream. So
Yeah.
if we agree to take this on, we are agreeing to pay for the maintenance and replacement of that in 30 years. We are not doing that today, but we're making the agreement for that. So this is because they did not want to keep ownership of those. So conversely, we have not been charging them to walk over our pipes for 50 years. They've been dual use public benefit structures.
And that wasn't a logical step to argue against Green Mountain Water. That's just to bring up the question in general.
No, yeah, look, we're with you. This is like, we need to bring gravity to this, right? There's no gravity because there was never a delineation of ownership going way back, right? It was something that just everybody assumed something. And then this kicks up 4 years ago, and all of a sudden, because there's now money needs to be spent on it, now everyone's pointing fingers, right? And it's like, okay, who's who, right? So that's what we've been trying to get to for 4 years.
Yeah.
And
Well, at least, I guess the positive thing is Lakewood is at least now sending written, I don't know how long they've been doing it for, but since we've been involved as a community on January 1st, Lakewood is actually sending written proposals, right? So at a minimum, I would love it if Green Mountain Water could actually respond to that in a written way and say, hey, we like this, we don't like this. And then if we're not gonna be able to physically have people here, at least we can communicate back and forth by saying, hey, let's redline that document and let's go back and forth until the red lines disappear. And I think that would be helpful.
I think they might do that after tonight, and that's what this meeting's a bit about. But
It's
but I would like to stop talking about history and everything. I'd like to
Yes.
just think about what,
Okay,
where we are going.
I need to interrupt you.
Okay.
I'm very sorry. I would like to proceed on your topic and do that. So answer the question when we come back. We are offering $600,000. That's what we would be doing. If there's another way to split costs, if there's anything else on the agenda that we can do to pull this together, that's what I would like to talk about, how to move forward. But we've been ignoring our public comment, and there's been somebody's hand raised, and we have been doing this for a little while, so we have to address this. I apologize. So, speaker, I can't read it, and
This
then
is
three, one caller. Yeah, caller 15403540.
3540.
If you could unmute yourself and address the board. Can you hear us? Caller 3540.
Maybe lower your hand and put it back up so we know you're actually watching right now.
Jeff, is this also?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Or
So I just wanted to say, there's a lot of echoing in the room, but I did want to make sure that folks knew that I was on the line. I was not able to attend in person. And I would just echo the, definitely if there's a counter to the, what the proposal 1 or 2 was, certainly put that in writing so we have a written counteroffer.
Is that the Lakewood City Council? Board?
Yes, that's.
Yes,
Councilor
Can you give us your name for the record again? Sorry. Barbara Frank. Thank you.
Barbara Frank.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you very much. Do you have any, Councilor Frank, do you have any ideas on how to do that before I turn it over to Rich for his option?
Yeah.
You've been thinking for 30 seconds. You've got brilliance, I know.
I know.
Councilor Frank?
Well, for me, what I would want to see is a written response, a counteroffer. If the proposals are unacceptable, then I would certainly expect a written counter proposal back to the city is what I would be looking for.
Thank you.
That's kind of what I'm here for, and trying to get to that. Okay, so can I have the floor for this here? Okay, I think we can agree that the sewer pipes is Green Mountain Water's problem, and the bridge is Lakewood's problem, or interest. Okay, and we start there, and so their proposal is actually, it looks that, okay, let me ask you this. Who do you want to own those? No, let me back up again. I was starting to say that, yes, we could build our own bridge, pedestrian bridge, you could build your own sewer pipe, but that's the most expensive way to go about it. And if we can come up with something, whether it's an IGA or something else where we share equitably costs, then that's what we really are after here. I mean, I think we're after keeping the bridges open, keeping the sewer pipes stable. And by the way, okay, so back to this other point for a second. In this proposal, Lakewood is saying that they're talking mostly about the north and south structure, but they would include the middle one. Well, they would include the middle. And I would say that we should be talking about all three and then put all three, just lump them all together. Whatever we come up with for one, we should use for all. So first question would be then, okay, who do you want to own that structure? Let's just call it a structure, whether it's called a bridge or a pipe or a hangar. Who do you think should own all? Who would you like to own all? Because it sounds to me like, you know, in Lakewood's proposal, they're saying, okay, we could own it and lease something to you, or you could own something and lease something to Lakewood. And both of those sound like a way to go forward. Which way would you like to go?
If you're asking me, I would like to start with the sticking point because the ownership doesn't matter, I'm not gonna pay for it. But I'm gonna break in and let everybody think about your question and ask for Amara to unmute herself and make a comment. Her hand is up.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. First of all, I want to say I'm a witness to this for the 4 years. Okay. Lakewood has refused to cooperate with Green Mountain Water District. And it is disconcerting to have the Lakewood mayor at city council imply that this is all up to Green Mountain and Green Mountain isn't participating and Green Mountain isn't cooperating. We'll talk to Green Mountain so they'll cooperate. That's just wrong. And it's misrepresenting to the citizens that are interested in these pipe carriers because it implies that they have sway with Green Mountain Water District to do something. I'm also perplexed at Councilor Over's insistence that there is a choice of ownership here. Green Mountain cannot own, operate, manage, maintain recreational or otherwise bridges. That is not their charter. They can carry pipe, they can piggyback the pipe onto Lakewood's bridge, but we can't sit here and answer your question, Council Olvert, saying, well, we want to own it. We don't have that option. The only reason this has gone on for 4 years is Lakewood categorically didn't want to pay to redo those bridges. And the citizens who are there tonight and at the meetings in city council should know that. This is on Lakewood. Lakewood should have done for the benefit of all taxpayers, because as Director Baker said, we are all now paying more because of the postponement. This could have been done for half this cost 4 years ago. Half the cost was what it was discussed as 4 years ago. It is not Green Mountain's charter to own or operate bridges. So we can put our pipe on your bridge, Councilor Over and Councilor Franks and Citizen Wachowski, I think, I apologize. But it's not our option to build bridges to schools or across ravines. And there seems to be a lack of clarity of that in the audience there. And I just don't understand why. Because really all of this falls back to Lakewood. So of the options that Lakewood gave us, the only option that Green Mountain has to reply back is anything that agrees to us supporting the pipes or rebuilding the pipes or attaching the pipes. But there is absolutely no possibility for us to, quote, negotiate partial ownership or temporary ownership or shared cost of the bridges. And by the way, these were never built as bridges. These were built as pipe hangers. They were never rated for human crossing and human weight and human usage. And there's a real misunderstanding of that. So everybody's calling them bridges, but they were never built and approved as bridges, just so you guys know. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Am I able to say a couple words really quick on that? I'd say maybe one, I just appreciate all those thoughts. One thing is that I don't think that you can prove that those were actually only meant for sewer pipe hangers. Actually, when we talk to the city council, we've actually heard the opposite. So just because you say something is true, it doesn't mean that it is true.
Well, hold it. So the fact that I'm a live witness,
Yeah.
because you weren't even born yet, and I was on those things.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they were pipe hangers. They were not bridges.
Got it.
There were no houses. It was just kids like me. So I'm telling you, the original intent was a pipe hanger, not a bridge.
I do understand that, but it's still your.
Excuse me, are we having a free-for-all? Why does one citizen get to be part of the meeting on an ongoing basis for 40 minutes now? And why does one citizen get to respond to another citizen? Excuse me, we each have a specific amount of time in a format in public comment.
We did alter and we are kind of run amok, and I did suggest that we cap this at 7 specifically because of that issue, which is 10 minutes from now. In the meantime, we do have another public comment. Ludmilla, did you want to talk about this? If you would unmute yourself.
Good evening. How is everybody? Everybody looks so happy today. This is ridiculous. We're supposed to lease. Green Mountain has an easement. I don't see public service. I'm not leasing my land to public service. I'm not leasing my land, my pipes to Green Mountain. The lease is ridiculous. It was never a lease. There should be never a lease cost. There should not be fees involved in that. This is a sewer pipe that has easement that Green Mountain should not lease. Lakewood should not lease the bridge. The bridge, if it's a bridge, Lakewood takes care of it. That's their part, that's their bridge. Green Mountain takes care of their utilities, the sewer and the water, period. End of story. This is, we can't negotiate. Okay, Green Mountain, you got to go negotiate. They did for 4 years. And all we hear from City of Lakewood, well, it's Green Mountain's fault. Green Mountain isn't negotiating. This is ridiculous. Green Mountain owns a pipe. Let them do whatever the hell they want to do with the pipes. Lakewood take their bridges. If they don't want it, demolish it, fine. Green Mountain will do something with their sewer. They've got an easement. We don't have to lease and pay a fee for this sewer. End of story. Sorry, guys, keep smiling.
Did you have something to say, Dave? Thank you, Linda.
Yes, just quickly, I think it would be very useful for the board if you have in your mind an idea of what you'd like to see a framework look like for an agreement. If you could state that to the board. The board can't agree to anything like that here, but they could take it into executive session and say, okay, we have a proposal from residents, from users in the water district, and can we accept some, all, or part of that? And it would be very useful, because I think Rich is you're in the right area. We have to, if we can't agree that it's either A or B, Lakewood's or the district's ownership, then we have to find a way to craft language, which is Dylan's job, that will satisfy both parties. And it's not difficult to do. I'm a professional negotiator. That's what I've done for a lot of my life with the Russians in Washington. And I think that you must have in mind what you think the framework would be. And I think it would be very useful for the board to hear that. At least you then would have your position known, because as it is, as just someone listening, I'm hearing a lot of interest from people online and here about the history. History will not get you to where you want to go, no matter how hard you try. You just need to have a proposal in front of people to work with. Clearly, the one from the city, the last instance, was insufficient to get the board back. So perhaps you have a better idea.
Yeah, if you don't mind speaking, I guess maybe to start, our goal here is to just remain positive. And I know that some of these comments that I've said is just to spark the conversation of the rebuttals, right? But we are here to be positive, and we're here to hopefully solve the problem and have both bridges for public and then the needs of Green Mountain Water as well. And then I guess with that question or that statement, I'd be curious if any of you guys have listened to my statements during the city council meetings at all. Have you guys listened to those in any way?
Yes, we have heard how you have to ask the city to get us to do something because, yes, yes, I have heard.
So the only reason I ask that is because I think it leads to that question. And I think on our side, we've been trying to push both sides to at least discuss, and hopefully I think we've been a little bit successful there. But my proposal would be for Lakewood to if I say take ownership, I mean officially, legally, with documentation, because that hasn't existed obviously since the 60s, right? And that's why we're all here. So my suggestion would be for Lakewood to do that, to actually declare ownership in a legal manner that says that those structures for the actual bridge portion of the supports portion is and belongs to Lakewood in the Ravines Park. That's where I would start. And as a result, since we have an issue now, we know that there's maintenance issues. The last 50 years, nothing has been done on either side. So I think in a way to collaborate and work together and solve the problem, there's got to somebody or both sides need to give a little bit, right? So I think the giving on the Lakewood side, I know maybe you wouldn't perceive it that way, would be actually doing that, taking that step to say the ownership is theirs, and also taking on the liability relative to pedestrians, which has been gray all along. And then I think in terms of the north and the south bridge, at least for now, there shouldn't be a major cost involved with doing anything until there is. But on the middle bridge, I would suggest that those costs are just split. So the middle bridge to get back to the state to support your infrastructure properly would be just split between the two. And maybe that doesn't seem fair to Green Mountain or fair to Lakewood, but splitting it down the middle seems fair to me to solve the problem. And then I think there needs to be some arrangement between the bridge structure versus the actual sewer structure in the future. And I think that can be done by saying Lakewood owns the actual structure that's supporting your pipe, and Green Mountain owns the actual pipe and then has to mount to the hanger. So if there's an issue with the bridge that's supporting your pipe, then Lakewood is responsible, and vice versa. And then perhaps there could be, we mentioned that there isn't any leasing or any costs that are paid by Green Mountain Water to Lakewood, but maybe, and I'm saying this, I don't know how this normally works, and maybe it doesn't normally work that a lease fee is paid from a water district to another district to hang their pipes. I don't know. I'm only asking that you consider it. And the reason I ask is because there has been 50 years of no payments, and if we want this to work for both sides, perhaps some amount of a lease agreement for those three structures for Green Mountain to hang those structures or hang their pipes on the structures that are owned by Lakewood. Maybe that would be a way, or at least a starting point, to start the discussion on how we might proceed. So that would be my recommendation on how to start. And maybe to add to that, I'm sure there are probably holes, as you're looking at me in my logic, relative to your needs and your wants, but that's how I would propose that you would start.
Is there anybody online who would like to weigh in on this before we hit the top of the hour? Mara, would you unmute, please?
Thank you. What I just heard was great up until the last sentence. You cannot set a precedent that every time a water district in Lakewood has to run sewer lines, whether it's under or from Solterra or the ravine for a few minority of people to walk their kids to school or their dogs, or on the other side of Lakewood or under a road, that suddenly now the water district, who has an easement, as the other citizen mentioned when she spoke, we're now going to start paying leasing fees to run water and sewer pipes across Lakewood. We've got a lot of new projects being built. Are we going to start to pay Lakewood for the new lines going in at Beach? Are we going to start to pay over at Florida? Are we going to, that just, you cannot set that precedent. I would be shocked if our attorney even thought that was conceivable. Everything before that, I agree with. That's kind of what Green Mountain has been trying to do for 4 years, is get Lakewood to take responsibility for the recreational aspect of those crossings. Thank you.
Thanks, Mara.
Am I able to rebuttal really quickly or no?
I'm sorry, let's cap this. I'm going to say, but I will say that what you proposed minus the lease, I totally agree with Mara.
Yep.
But everything you proposed minus the lease is exactly what we proposed to Lakewood.
Gotcha.
Except that instead of splitting the costs, we did the cost of the trestle only, so it's more like 1/3, 2/3, but they did not come back with 50/50. There is nothing there. So we are about out of time. Rich, what do you have to say?
A lot. Okay, so I would like to take back your response to Lakewood's last proposal, which might be just, what was your last proposal? What do you guys really want to do? I mean, okay, I asked if you wanted to take ownership. Mara doesn't think you can, but you didn't respond as to whether or not that was what you want to do. Because I think,
I would say technically, I do not believe we're allowed to take ownership.
right, that could be a good response. So,
And to me,
so point number one is going to be that Lakewood takes ownership of the structure.
pedestrian,
Right.
I think it needs to be kind of specific in that, I mean, what we do for water and sewer is what's necessary to safeguard our piping and to safeguard our citizens. I mean, it's about safeguarding the assets and staying within what we're allowed to legally do, which is water and sewer. We are not legally allowed to step into the arena of parks. And so to me, I personally, I have no problem if the city of Lakewood wants to piggyback onto our sewer hangers or other things. But they would need to bear the cost of what is necessary to make a safe pedestrian crossing. And if that, whatever that amounts to me, that's what they need to, I guess, decide if they are willing to do that. And if not, from my standpoint, again, you know, I guess back to the fiduciary responsibility, I don't want anyone hurt, like that middle bridge or any other bridge. Liability safeguarding, I mean, I've been here since 1970. Same thing. I played Jeff in the ravines. There was nothing there. Matter of fact, there was even some concrete there. There was nothing there. I mean, we could have all fell in 40 feet and died. Of course, back then they didn't care about us, but people didn't sue like they do today. And that's one of the issues, you know, is that we live in a litigious society where it's no longer my word, handshake, we're all good. It's that people will tell you they're good and then something happens. So as long as the water district is safeguarded and we can help the city of Lakewood and keep everything open for the people, the kids and everybody else, I'm thrilled to do that. I just don't think we can move into the realm of creating pedestrian bridges.
Right, and I agree with that, and I think Lakewood agrees with that, actually. So then how do we merge the pipe in with, okay, let's suppose then Lakewood takes ownership of the bridge, which then means they would take ownership of liability, right?
Yes,
Yeah, right, and so that.
which they
that
should
takes
already
care-
have in the way
that
of
takes
parking.
care of that, I think. So how do we deal with, the pipe underneath? And I'm thinking of erosion right now.
Well, that's, I think that's a whole separate
That's the
issue.
root cause here. That's what started this whole thing. So how did we get here? The erosion by pathways in the park. Has Lakewood
No,
proposed
it's the
any?
water, it's the erosion problem. The water storm.
Right, but the pathway, yeah, but the pathways, what they do is they create, again, watersheds straight to our structures. Because that's where the people walk. So if you have a path that goes down to the structure, it creates, it's like its own gully of water to it.
Okay, I get what you're saying there, but I would disagree on that, but just that, not that you're wrong. I'm just saying that the undercutting is stormwater coming down the ravines, not so much the people walking on, the surface water there. It's
That's for
it's the undercutting from the water coming down the ravines, big storms, not so much small. And I do know something about those kind of things.
I would like to suggest that you look at the proposal that we sent out, since it is pretty much just what you suggested. Except we agree with the city of Lakewood on numbers on points 1 and 4. They have offered and agreed on that. We have not agreed on cost sharing. And that's the big one. As you see in my financial breakdown, we would take on significant, we need a way to do who pays for that middle bridge, and that will be the structure for any financial agreement that goes forward. But I would like to suggest, since we are not making any more progress on that we close this topic.
I agree.
And you guys go talk about it, and if you can come up with something, it seems like you are both, I would agree with you. We're on the same page, we just don't know how to make it happen, and the city has not come up with, they have not been open so far to any kind of cost sharing of the structure.
Okay, so what you're saying is you don't want to respond to the latest Lakewood proposal.
Correct.
That's
We do not have-
not the best way to go.
Well, you're doing a zero sum thing to me, and I'm gonna put it back on you. So here's the thing, we just said there are points that we can start on, right? But if you're saying, do we go off of Lakewood's proposal? No, because we,
Well, the counter proposal would be very nice.
Well-
A response to this proposal that reaches all our goals would be great.
so there's your starting point.
It's the same thing, and their counter proposal was the same proposal in different words, I would argue, so I don't think we're making any, I don't think either one of us is making any progress towards each other.
So you want to give up and you just, everybody pays the most? I think we could come up.
No, we are trying to do what we're chartered to do, right? It's water and sanitation, period. That's what we do. And we represent all of the public on all this. And we do have a fiduciary and legal responsibility to that point. So Lakewood needs to, come on, they are the big parent in this thing, right? In terms of government entities, they are the larger parent group, right? You're talking about, it's their park. If it's a bridge, it's their bridge. Lakewood does stormwater mitigation, right? We pay stormwater fees here. I'm struggling how Green Mountain keeps getting thrown into the major cog of this. That's kind of my biggest problem with this is you guys have fully staffed engineering. You guys have an incredible, we pay a lot of taxes for the city manager, city engineer, city attorneys, park people. What the heck here? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of out of patience with this, that this is where, it's not our job to figure out how to make these bridges. That's it. And, I appreciate it, and I even like what Peter said, at least at a 50-50 type thing, we didn't get that.
I don't think it should be 50-50. I agree with the whole idea that Lakewood should take ownership of it, and that's actually part of their proposal. Proposal number 2 is the ownership of, well, I would add all 3 structures.
Right, because this fight will continue on. You can't just like isolate 2 or 1 or whatever. It is a park and there are 3 access points for pedestrians. And they're also, by the way, their point of origin was piping. So.
Right, that doesn't matter what the origin was now.
Well, actually it does.
Proposal
Let's don't let
number
the facts get in the way here. So.
Well, that's how we
Tell me
move
you
forward.
see proposal number 2 offering money to build the repair
Well,
of it.
that's what we need to discuss.
Well, I understand, but that's what we have been discussing for 4 years. So I
Right.
don't think we're gonna do that tonight.
Well, okay, what's wrong with this proposal? Lakewood takes ownership of all 3 structures, which then, the next line is, that means that Lakewood assumes all liability. So there you go, you're covered.
That's number 1 on our proposal as well. We agree on that.
So there you go.
Yes.
So right there, so, and then Green Mountain assumes all responsibility for maintenance of the lights. And I'm not so sure about support structures, because the support structure is actually the bridge. So there's a counter proposal, is you cross out support structures, you assume all responsibility for maintenance of the pipes. I mean, that's a counter right there, if you wanted to do that, that's.
All right, so Peter, to Peter's point, you redline some of this stuff, and then you also get to at least at a level of 50-50, right? So you have to have, we have an attorney here, there's the things we can and cannot do. That's not negotiable. It's never gonna be negotiable. So we need to get Lakewood to understand that's not a flexible point. So the fact that they are dual use at a minimum, we're looking at like possibly something 50-50. I don't know about this whole lease thing, because that's some lawyer stuff there. I'm pretty sure that I don't even want to jump, I don't want to go off that one.
And I appreciate it, but again, it is, you're starting off with a lot of hope, and I appreciate that. But this has been, it has been a little while, and we have not heard any interest, 0 negative interest in going towards the middle and south. So, middle and south bridges.
Well, I'm saying right now, it's
So-
like, I think all 3 should be included.
Yeah, I understand.
All
So everything we laid out in our proposal is the stuff that we have kind of considered. What if they don't want it? We kind of lay out all those steps. That's gonna be my starting point. But until there is authorization, and that may be something that we can talk finances. I don't know that there's anything more to talk about tonight.
Well, I kind of like, still don't know. I mean, you agree that Lakewood taking ownership is the way you would like to go?
I think everybody agrees with that, yes.
Okay, and then maintenance of the pipe is your responsibility.
Yes.
Okay, so that's like the basis of an agreement right there.
So maintenance of the bridge is Lakewood's responsibility as long as the cost of the bridge. So
It's a
that
little
needs
bit
to
of,
be-
I would think there's a little bit of both there. And I don't know about 50-50 at all, because.
Well, but see, we need to back to even, I mean, in all of this, somehow that Lakewood never seems to be putting any skin in the game. All they're doing is liability insurance, which they already have on the park anyway. I mean, there's no skin in this game to make those safe pedestrian bridges for them. None.
But if they take ownership, that actually.
Well, just taking ownership doesn't do that, because they wanted to take ownership but make us repair them.
Yes.
So that's like contradictory. It's back to her car thing. You have the car, but every time it needs maintained, you get free auto repair thing. That's not the way the world works.
Well, we use the analogy too, I mean, it's like there's man-rated and non-man rated, which is why satellites are cheaper than space capsules, right? So the fact that you're now turning these into man-rated structures, there's a big price, there's a big upward to that cost, so those are the kind of things. So
So.
we're gonna have to cap this.
We have to
We need
cap
to cap this conversation. I mean,
I'd
this,
like to see it go a little bit further. I think Rich has got a good point. We could boil this down, just come up with a decent counter proposal based on what he's saying. It looks to me like Lakewood will have the bridge, we'll have the pipe.
give them that proposal. They're responsible for the bridge, we're responsible for the pipe. If they don't want to pay for a bridge, we're gonna block that thing, stop the erosion and end it. It seems
Well,
simple.
we don't even, we aren't there to stop the erosion. That's not even our, that's not our land.
Our barricades are gonna keep people off of our pipe.
Correct.
At least allow him, Rich, to go back and with this. Sounds
Well, no, I
good.
think we are, as long as Lakewood is in for part of the cost. I mean, that, to me, in all of these proposals, there's never been Lakewood in on any of it. Other than liability,
Which they already.
which they already carry on all their parts.
That should be part of your counter proposal, is what percentage of the erosion control is Green Mountains? I think it's both. I think Lakewood has a stake if that bridge, the middle bridge, is what we're talking about right now. If that washes out and becomes unsafe, Lakewood does not have a bridge, and you don't have a pipe.
Yeah, we do.
There.
That's the difference.
No, if it
Our
washes
pipe
out.
hangers, our pipe hangers are not contingent on carrying pedestrians, which is a way different load factor engineering wise. That's what Jeff is getting to in his point, is pedestrian rated versus engineering. So from an engineering standpoint, we can certainly hang and take care of piping at a very much more cost-effective level. When all of a sudden a bridge for pedestrians is added, it becomes a totally different structure that, and that's what he's trying to get at, is that it's the, adding the pedestrian and the man-rated portion is where the true cost comes in, not just carrying a pipe.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna reiterate, we have a very full agenda, and we've got a lot of legal things to discuss. This was never intended to be a meeting to sit here until we hammer out an agreement.
Well,
I don't even think we have the people in the room who can do that, as we had discussed. So it would be great to spitball some ideas, and we can continue to do that, maybe offline, but I think we need to proceed with what we've got.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna close this agenda item and we will move on to the next agenda item.
I appreciate everybody's participation. Thank you, and thank you.
the next agenda, is it federal time?
No, the approval of the minutes.
We gotta go back to our regular stuff.
Would you guys allow us like one sentence as I leave? Just-
Sure.
Sure. One, I just want to say thank you very much, and then I just would really push you guys to do that counter offer and just state those things that you're describing. I know it sounds petty at this point, but I do think that as we move it along, so go through it, redline it, say what you want, and I think that's going to be really helpful. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Thank you, Councilor Prince, for joining us.
Hey, have you guys ever seen?
Sorry, I didn't get to your resolution. I'm sure we can back it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Cheers.
What item is the federal time?
It's gonna come up on number 8, so we're at agenda item number 6, approval of the minutes. I would like to motion to approve the February 14th, March 14th, January 10th, January 23, and January 31, 2023 regular board meeting minutes.
I will second the motion.
We have a second, do we have discussion? No discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye, we have 5 ayes, 0 nays, the motion passes. So we'll have to sign those, Jeff.
Yes, I gave the director Rick this one.
Okay, we'll close agenda item number 6, move to agenda item number 7, district manager report. Jeff, you have the floor.
Okay, district manager report real quickly, I won't spend too much time, so, I'd like to give recognition to, the staff for preparing for that fire a couple Fridays ago with the wind up here on the hogback. They implemented emergency procedures, they were proactive, they noticed it when it was going and made sure all the pump stations and water tanks, we have, 11 pump stations and 8 water tanks, so. So we make sure everything's full and ready, and also I like to recognize the snowpack is pretty good on the Colorado River side, because a lot of our water from Denver water comes from the Colorado River, and also like to recognize snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountains is at record above 60 feet, which hopefully California will divert it to Southern California to take the heat off the Colorado River. That would take the heat off us. And the Utah snowpack is 200%, which is huge. So maybe we could fill up Lake Powell, Lake Mead. And also customer service is doing great, asset care is doing really good. And then we get into project management, so we can talk about in-depth project management. There's requests for proposals out there. We can talk about when we get into the project. But any other questions on the district manager report before we go into the projects?
I just wanted to thank you for being proactive. So Jeff did reach out and let me know when the fire had started. He let me know that, so we don't end up like Marshall Fire, that we had an on-call staff. We had pumps at 100%. We had increased capacity in anticipation of something reaching the C470 and getting into our area. So thank you.
That was awesome.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, I think, staff did a really good job on top of that. And then, so let's get into the projects. So the Bear Creek Sewer CIP.
Can I, just because we've got a guest here, can we?
Yeah, go to Federal Center.
Flip that in there, if we just put the Federal Center on the top?
Yeah,
Okay, I'd like to do that for Rich's sake. He's in enough meetings.
okay, so we've been going back and forth with a representative for
Hang on a second. Hey, Dave, we're doing the Federal Center. I'm sorry. We're gonna cover the Federal Center real quick, and I know you wanted to hear that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Sorry to interrupt you.
All right, so real simple, the Federal Center, we've been sending information to a representative of the developer, and the information we sent that developer is, number one, he has a copy of the agreement, but we sent him Exhibit B of the copy of the agreement, which is this. I sent you guys all today. Rich, if you want a copy of this, I'll send it to you. But what it says is, this is dated back in 2007. And what it says is, us as a district, we don't have any responsibility to pay for anything on their development site. And they have to put in all the water and sewer on their site. And also, under new rules and regs, they might have to pay for increased capacity outside of the site. And keep in mind, St. Anthony's Hospital did do that. They installed a new larger water storage tank and a pump station. So we sent the developer Exhibit B, and also we sent them our procedures that are located on our website for new development. And also we sent them the rules and regs, and we updated the rules and regs that include, we're not working in contaminated soil. And also we sent them our standards, and we sent them the new water and sewer certificates that, because they were talking about maybe getting a will serve letter, but the new water and sewer certificates at the bottom address that, hey, we'll provide you water on these conditions. You might have to pay for increased capacity because Green Mountain water and sewer systems are up to 50 years old, and most of it is out of capacity, both water and sewer. So they have all that documentation. And they also wanted to contact Merrick Engineering about certain things Merrick did, were proposed way back in 2007, which really has nothing to do with us. I mean, if Merrick says, well, you could do this, this, and this, they can work out those logistics, because we don't have a contract to do this, or this. Like if they want to string a sewer line through GSA property, they have to work that out. And keep in mind, the way that the new development works is they hire an engineering company, they provide drawings, we go through our engineering company. Then if our engineering company says it fits our rules and regs, you guys have the ultimate approval to sign off on those drawings. And, based on the input from our designated engineering firm. Any questions on that?
Yeah, just one, not so much a question, but I want to give an observation. What it looks like to me, just want to know if my observation is correct. It looked to me like they had months when they originally bought it way back when. They've been sitting on it for months and months and months. And now this last week on a Wednesday, they send you a message saying they're doing their due diligence. Very good, that's nice. And they give you 24 hours to tell them everything that they need to know about the water system. And then, so that made your 24-hour deadline was on Thursday. And then 24 hours later on Friday, they signed the whole deal. So it sounded to me like they kind of rushed through this whole thing. That didn't sound to me like they did a particularly good job. That's not our fault, but I'm wondering, is my observation, my opinion of the situation out of league, or am I missing something?
Well, yeah, that's correct. But keep in mind, I sent them 7 different documents. So we already have everything documented what they need. Exhibit B, the water and sewer certificates, the rules and regs, our standards, and our procedures. So it becomes automatic. We automatically send them all that stuff. They have to follow all that. And Exhibit B shows,
Did they react in any way?
no, they said, thank you, and then I forward them, they want to know about running pipe under RTD tracks. That's an engineering question. So I refer them to Merrick Engineering.
So somehow this didn't phase you in the slightest.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, well, we send them, you know, we, all these documents are in place for that reason.
There was the GSA agreement was amended at some point, I think 2014, and there was an updated Exhibit B associated with that. Merrick reassessed that. They should have that amended Exhibit B, but you might check that.
well, I'm just wondering whether they're perfectly fine with it, or somehow their due diligence has gone, through the roof, and they totally missed it. And months from now, they're suddenly gonna go, hey, what? We have to pay for this? I mean, we did the right thing, we told them. But I'm just kind of wondering, what's wrong with these people?
Yeah, I don't think we have any insight into what happened between the auction and this current due diligence period. I don't know even that we know that they're the same entities.
Well, it is a different entity. And that's why I'm kind of wondering. Now, if the first entity looked at it and said, well, this is crap, everything's stupid, that makes sense. Now, the second entity comes in, looks at it, and they either see the crap, and they don't care, I love crap, bring it on, or they're missing it, which their fault, not ours. I'm just wondering, which of those two latter options appear to be the case here? It is what it is, I'm just curious.
Well, and then my other concern is Merrick.
Yeah,
So why, I understand they did the original engineering thing, but my confidence is negative, so.
So Merrick designed both the local and the regional. So all the regional is in place in that Green Mountain infrastructure. But they did proposals at the time for local. So that they would be the natural engineering firm for any developer to go for proposed local facilities.
I still, except for what I've been talking about for all these years, my confidence level, I would still want the current engineering group that we have brought on, I would at least want them to weigh in on this because of my lack.
Well, right, and they will, because the local facilities are going to be subject to Green Mountain oversight. They'll just be presumably cost effectively designed for the developer by Merrick, because they've got that underlying data already. And then JVA or whoever we have contracted to do our review of their proposed design.
I know, I'm just struggling, because they're on point, and there's a reason we had to do all this stuff, and I've stated my position on this. I'm not comfortable with Merrick being on point on a large project like that.
JVA is on notice that they're to review anything new coming up, and Merrick can provide information that to Fed Center from the past. So the question is, if there's an Exhibit B graded 2014, did Green Mountain sign off on it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
So my job is to get a copy of that.
and you have it. It's in the OneDrive.
Oh, man, well, why didn't I find it?
It may not be 2014. I don't.
It's not this one? That's the one I sent out. That was the back of it's dated 2007.
Yeah, so this is the original agreement.
I'll get a copy.
Yeah, I don't have my memo with me.
That's all right, we'll get a copy. 2014 Exhibit B. So I'll get a copy of that and highlight it and send it to the board.
Well, I too am I shouldn't say too, you did say that, but Peggy, onto your comments directed with me. I am very disappointed with the sale. I'm very surprised at the way the diligence, and I'm very disappointed really with how things turned out with this due diligence period. for them rushing it and a little in our response. I thought we had done, as a board, a lot of due diligence ourselves. Like you said, we looked into all these things. For example, that agreement, I thought we had figured was obsolete. We talked about it a lot. So there was the utility agreement, if that is the one we're looking at. And there was talk about how GSA wasn't going to honor that. And I know we never got that in writing, so we don't know, but then I thought it ended up that we looked at it and thought that wasn't going to be honored for us because that agreement was for as it was being built. And then once we got that land included, then our rules took over. So that agreement was moved at that point.
There was a cost sharing agreement at essence for the construction of St. Anthony's.
Right.
And that included essentially Green Mountain constructing some regional facilities sufficient to receive service from not only St. Anthony's, but also potentially the areas 1 and 2, which are adjacent to the St. Anthony's. Green Mountain did construct those regional facilities. It was paid back by St. Anthony's Catholic Health Initiatives, actually. And the local facilities for St. Anthony's were constructed. And all of that construction and all of that payment was done under this service agreement. The service agreement is assignable by GSA to other entities for parts of it. I don't know, I have never seen an assignment of that agreement. If it was assigned, it is enforceable against the district. If it was not assigned, it is probably not enforceable against the district. I don't know that that matters either way, because any development that occurs now is subject to Green Mountain's rules and regulations in effect anyway.
Right.
And also subject to the terms of the agreement if it occurs underneath the agreement. But the property was included in Green Mountain at the end of 2007, December of 2007. Although the assessor doesn't show that because it's been federally owned property and so tax exempt for the past 6 years. So yes and no.
Okay. So maybe, but really the pertinent documents are the entire rules and regs under which we would be operating until we saw another contract. So it seems like that would be the thing to point out. I think,
and I would say the permanent rules are the current rules and regulations.
yes.
With period. It doesn't matter if there are less stringent contractual requirements in the 2007 GSA agreement. The current rules and regulations supersede those.
Yes. So I'm kind of wondering why that 2007 agreement is being discussed, because it seems a little, like I said, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
There may be something, but that would be up to them to provide.
Yeah, and there's valuable engineering data associated with that.
There's my next point, kind of. Because then the next point was that we discussed that the GSA, what we have been hearing is that they're not gonna honor any of that, and it doesn't matter, even if they were going to honor it, what we needed to convey was, we're gonna, at this point, have to get them to do another engineering study to bring us up to date and see where they are and do it for that property. So while that may be in all the standard language, there's a difference between having it buried in a document and bringing it to light. Is that what you were getting at too? That some of this is kind of, I don't feel like it was.
Yeah, my sense
Wait,
is,
there's a specific new development procedure that was sent to them for new development, so there, it's in that procedure.
I'm gonna say,
So it's not very.
my sense is we've done the right thing. I think they somehow have glossed through this. Somebody's told them, no problem, we can figure it all out. And then years from now, they come back and say, realize they stepped into the crap. And I see a lawsuit going, wait a minute, that's not what we agreed to. We thought we were agreeing to something else. And I can see us saying, well, here's our documents, we are right, we'll see you in court. And, you know, again, we haven't done anything wrong.
It'll be in the documents, but here's my problem is that this is exactly the conversation that we had with the Elkhart development.
Yeah.
And I don't think we learned our lesson by saying, we know there will be costs. We know there will be these things. We have seen these problems. We did our due diligence and we know these things are coming up.
Right. That's a perfect analogy, because these guys are coming back saying, can you cut me a break? I mean, we told you up front. The answer was no. But yeah, can you cut me a break? It's like, how many times do you need to hear no? But it's like, well, I keep trying, sooner or later, somebody will
Yeah,
cut me a break.
to me, we can't, if it's our rules, we need to stick by them, because if you give one person a break, everyone.
Exactly.
And that's what we did. We did said 1078, all our rules and regs, our procedures, and our water and sewer certificates. That's why he's on his third lawyer, because they haven't found a break in our wall. It's just gonna be the same way with vet center.
Yeah, that's
They haven't found a break in our wall. The new development procedures, black and white. There's 7 different documents that are our wall, and the only reason we sent them exhibit B is because they asked for it. Now I gotta find 2014 exhibit B.
Anyway, we did the right thing. So.
Yeah.
Legally protected and being helpful and telling people everything that is going on, I think are two different arguments.
Do you just want it to be more explicit? Is that what you're going for?
I'm, yes, going for the information, all the information we know specific to that property, rather than say, here's our standard disclaimers, here's our movement regs. And if we know it needs an engineering study, say, yes, we know it needs an engineering study, not, you know, there's a possibility according to our development that you're gonna need to do this. So, one other question, we did talk about the timing on that, but you did, it seems like, Mr. Tice, you brought this up, at our last legal meeting, that you were hearing that they were asking questions. So has this been, how long has this been going on?
I have to go back and do the exact dates. Hasn't been that long. But we just been going back and forth. And the reason why I try to keep things simple, because I come from a world with, rules and regs. I come from the world of Colorado primary drinking water regulations, meaning it's black and white. Here's the regulations. There's no, I can't go argue with the Colorado Department of Health and say, hey, I know lead is 0.015, but we're at 0.016, can you give us a break? So that's why I send them actual documents. I believe in rules and regs, standards, standard operating procedures. That's the world I come from. So I can't write them a 2-page essay based on all rules and regs. I already sent them 300 pages worth of documents. And plus it'll hold up. It holds up with legal. Legal's already, the board and legal has already reviewed all the rules and regs, all the standards. Engineers have already reviewed this. These have been built for 50 years now. And so it becomes our wall, so I'm just going to send them the basics saying, hey, here's our rules and regs. That's what my paragraph said. Just what our lawyer said is you have to abide by our newest rules and regs. And what happened in the past is exhibit B, what's happened in the past, even though you wanted a copy of it. So that's why 1078 South Alkire, they're running into walls. That's why they're on their third lawyer, like I just said, is because they haven't found a break in our dam. This is not big sky where, we're losing lawsuits. This is rules and regs that hold up in court. So that's my job. And that's why I have a great track record of compliance with Colorado primary drinking water laws and the Clean Water Act, is obeying the rules and regs. So here it is. We're not trying to bait. I'm not going to type up a 2-page report outlining the rules and regs. They could read everything and then they could come back to us with questions. And I can't answer what to do with running water and sewer lines under RTD tracks. That's an engineering thing.
Well, I do appreciate you taking care of this legally. I wish we could do it in a way so that the people would understand before they buy the property that they have these costs, and therefore they don't have to close down the family business like on Elkhire, or we don't have to deal with development.
But that's the due diligence.
It's on both sides.
Todd deals with that. It's like if you are a contractor, it's incumbent on you to understand the rules, regulations in the city, county you're dealing with. You know, it's not their job to explain your business to you and write a 2-page essay. You know, and that could be interpreted a lot of different ways. You know, you can't do for one that you don't do for another.
That's right, that's why we gotta stick
And
with
not
it.
just developers, they know well in advance of things. I can tell you, we'll have projects, I was just working on one today. From the time that people started to basically the inception of construction was 5 years, and it was all because of due diligence issues that had to be cleared up prior to them starting. But it was a complex land, there was a lot of complexities, but they know what they have to jump through. And if, you know, and the gentleman, even if he is a smaller developer, if he's developed any other things before, he's dealt with these things. He's just trying to come up with a way to circumvent the system.
Yes, 1078 started building before they even applied for water and sewer certificates. Before they even came to us, they were already building. So they didn't do their due diligence. And all we did was saying, here's our Lakewood water and sewer certificates, my paper capacity, here's our rules and regs, here's our new development procedures. They didn't even have a professional engineer signed on to design it. You know, all state law requires all water and sewer systems must be designed by a professional engineer. So we had to direct them into what to do properly to protect public health and environment. At the end of the day, we're here to provide drinking water, to protect public health and environment, and protect, you know, sewer from spilling on the ground. That's our primary job. So we have to not only enforce our rules and regs that revolve all the way around that, we have to apply with Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment rules and regs too. So that's why 1078 South Alcar took a lot of shortcuts, and that's why they're stalled right now.
Well, it's human nature. Some people feel like if you take a chance, sometimes it's easier to get forgiveness than it is to get permission. And you take that chance.
Well, that's a monetary roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Water and sewer systems are drinking water and sewer systems are a lot more regulated than to me, drinking water is the most regulated thing in the United States. So we have to comply with a lot of rules and regs.
Okay, so anything else on the federal center property?
2009.
So 2009, I'll find it, 2009 Exhibit B, but it doesn't say the same thing pretty much as 2007.
Yeah.
So
it's just updated engineering.
It's updated engineering. So basically, there's not much to say. The bottom line is, new development has to follow our updated rules and regs, our new development procedures, our new standards, and it must go through the City of Lakewood water and sewer certificates that we improve, and it has to be signed off by the board of directors. So that's your wall right there. That's your barricade. That's your wall to control, you know, cost, control development, make sure we don't run out of money, we don't go broke. And we're in compliance.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and move on to your other capital construction.
All right, Bear Creek CIPP is going very smoothly. It's on track to be done by the end of May. We're almost through the golf course. The Kipping sewer line upgrade, the only holdup on there is the City of Lakewood right-of-way permit. So better than that, it's moving to move the gas line. The barricades are still being fabricated. And let me know, you know, the barricades should be done. So if we gotta do something else, let me know. And the request for proposal, center ring structure, received easement maps from the City of Lakewood and Merrick Engineering. So we have the easement for the center structure. So the bid is out there. So there's a bid on BidNet. And the bid says this must be a pipe support and not a bridge. So that bid is out there, meaning somebody's going to design us a system to hold this pipe and match the easement. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's the bid. All right, then the request for proposal for project management and water line replacement on Atlantic. We talked to JVA. They said JVA is swamped. They said, hey, just send that out for bid as project management. I know discussing with Director Baker before, it's a good thing to have, you know, design engineers, project manager engineers in construction. That way everybody's doing their part. So that there's a bid out for project management just to replace the water line on Atlantic. And then we'll go, once we get a project manager to review the merit drawings, then we'll go with the actual construction bid. So right now we have two bids, one for design of the structure to hold the center pipe, only the center structure pipe, and one for the project management of Atlantic. That's gonna be a big project. You know, it's a 6 and 8 inch water line of over 1,000 feet of it. And then we sign off on the generator for the pink pump station. See, that's another thing is, you know, that pink pump station feeds St. Anthony's, right? Why didn't they buy a generator? Somebody at that time should have said, hey, we need a generator back at this pump station.
Well, that's like the lift station over there in Tamarisk, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, they put it in and then it's like, here we are, you know, so,
Yeah, we didn't have a redundant system.
yeah. you need
That's
to-
what we have, you know, we have to keep continuously improving and put that in our rules and regs. Hey, if new development comes in, we're out of capacity, not only they have to provide emergency capacity, which could include generators or dual systems. That's all the projects.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna close agenda item 8, go to agenda item number 9, financial matters. Director, you have any questions?
I have a question. Can you tell me what the status of the FICA spreadsheet is?
Yeah, we're still waiting for the data from JBA Engineering on the age of pipes. For some reason, that's a hard thing to get, aging cost and replacement of pipes. We've been begging them for months.
I thought that was a function of our maintenance system. What's
No, it's an engineering standard. So we're trying to dig up engineering standards to put on that section of the FCA spreadsheet.
like how long it will last versus the actual age? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the engineering standard on projected age pipe, different types of pipe.
Okay, so because we haven't seen anything on that since January. Any
Yes.
updates?
Well, we haven't seen anything on the FICA sheet since January.
Okay.
We keep reminding JVA. We used to meet with JVA every 2 weeks. We're meeting them with every week to try to move faster on big projects.
So we had also looked at alternative engineering houses, so can we lean into those if JVA is not keeping up?
Yes,
You agree with that, or the rest of the board, you got, I mean, we had discussed that, we didn't want to be single-ended, right, or single point of failure. So if JVA is not keeping up, I think we don't hang all your meat in one locker, you know, start spreading it out.
okay.
And I'm sorry, I was walking.
No,
You did.
yes. I'm just reading. Okay. Director Hooks, financial matters.
So I went all through the financial records, the operating expenses, incomes. I was thrilled to see that even though we were supposed to be hundreds of thousands under by budget, we're almost $200,000 in profit. It's awesome. And so the unaudited financial investments reports, everything looks,
Now, the profits will be distributed among the board members.
and then we wake up, Dave. But I would move that we go ahead and accept monthly operating expenses and capital expenditures and the unaudited financial statements and investment reports.
Okay.
I have a question. Not a question. One problem was that I did not see, there was the invoices from the lobbyists that didn't get paid the first time. So I saw that one invoice on this, but not the second invoice. We now have 2 of those. So we'll still be a month behind on that. So we can find that. I meant to say that before so that you would have a check ready in time, but I forgot that. I did.
It's not in those checks?
No.
Okay. I'll make a big note to get with Doug to catch up on the invoices for the office.
Would it help to have those sent directly to Doug?
Yeah, Doug sent him an email saying, send them directly to him. So they know.
Any further discussion? No further discussion, all in favor of the,
But no one seconded it.
yeah, you did.
I don't think you did. It's very quiet.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, so the approval of the March 2023, April 2023, and March 2023 monthly operating and unaudited financial reports as passed. We'll close agenda item number 9 and open agenda item number 10, directors matters, legislative committee update.
Yes, I'm sorry, one more. I don't have too much to say, but since our last meeting, we did lose Director Wendell from the legislative committee. He has other time commitments, so I am on there by myself. If anybody would like to volunteer to come help, we are about halfway through, and there's no other big things on my list to be watching for, but we do have those bonus land bills. We did a proposed position on 213. That was it. I lost track of 1190 while I was sick, and by now it's already through the second reading. So, well, anyway, I am looking into, and I asked legal late this afternoon without a time to respond, but we are looking at some other utility things that, if that applies to us or not. So there's not a lot to do, so that would be an easy committee to sit on if anybody would like to add their voice. And go. Okay, that's it for my updates. But let me know one more. Lobbyist is fantastic, and he will get on anything, and he's very knowledgeable. So just impressed with his thoroughness.
Oh, you mean Ian, when you talk about Andrew?
And
That's all that.
Are you good on that?
that's it.
Okay, section B, I would like to motion to accept the amendment to the bylaws, section 8, conduct of business, section B, to require supermajority vote of 4 directors in matters of new extraterritorial service after January 15, 2023. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Okay, we have discussion.
Is your motion for the language that Director Whitman said?
Yes.
And that's where we just have to have 4 as opposed to 3.
On the extraterritorial, yeah.
Right.
I'm having problems and confusion. I did not realize, did you send this out? There's new language as opposed to what was presented last?
And what was, when I sent it out before, during the past month, there were a couple of comments and suggestions, which I think I did tinker with.
Yes. So that constitutes a significant change. I did not see this even. Did you say it was sent out to, I must have missed it. I didn't see it. I sent it in I saw it in your newsletter email, but I didn't see it in my board. So I was just looking through this.
Yeah, we just got it yesterday, we just printed it out today.
And you just printed it out.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
so
didn't get their-
I guess I was thinking, and that's my fault for not expressing, but I kind of was hoping that we'd have some public input, so it would have been posted at least in the board packet. But okay, so what I'm doing here, not in the board packet, something different. We could have worked on that, but here's my problems on the language. The new language is to have a 4 out of 5 supermajority vote in order to amend the service plan. The original language was for the service plan and intergovernmental or IGA or otherwise. Without those provisions, I don't think this does anything.
Are you suggesting adding a couple of amendments that would,
I am not
Yeah.
sure, so tell me why, and then the title of this, I'm not sure. So tell me why you took those things out. And why the title on the agenda is to require student majority vote for new extraterritorial service after January 15th. Now, this new language doesn't refer to extraterritorial service anywhere. So that's a change. Tell me why.
I'm not sure. Evidently, somebody offered a suggestion, and I just thought took it. I know my sense was anything that was extraterritorial. So if I somehow put language in here that made it less than that, it was not my intention.
Then we just need to add that or rewrite it for next time.
You have to amend the motion. I'd have to withdraw it, we'd have to make an amendment.
I don't remember what my other item was.
I mean, I sent a copy of them both, but there are significant differences. You know, this whole other clause by you can't have, then you can't modify it again, so you've got a double four-fifths vote in here.
Yeah, that was a suggestion. I do remember that coming in, but I don't remember the other change that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I don't know that some people would argue even the four-fifths is overkill. You know, I originally suggested that, but I think the second one, if you've got four-fifths, you've got four-fifths. So you can vote on those both in one night. So I don't know that that's necessary.
Well, the logic that was given to me on the other edition was that, well, we got this rule, somebody can come in and say, I'm gonna amend the bylaws
Sure.
tonight with 3 votes, and I'm gonna take out that four-fifth requirement, and now that it's gone, now we go to the issue at hand, which now is only 3 votes instead of 4. So the point was, since you can easily change the bylaws in a heartbeat, without locking that in, the whole thing is kind of weak and meaningless.
I disagree. I disagree because nobody is going to be, and maybe it's irrelevant, but I don't know that I want to make changing the bylaws harder than it needs to be. But my point is, if you're going to tackle this and you think you've got four-fifths vote to overcome what you're asking for to change the service plan, you've got four-fifths vote to do the bylaws. Either way, you've got it, and this is just one more vote.
Well, I think the logic is if you require 4 votes to change the bylaws, to change this, then you've still got that strength.
It's just 2 votes instead of 1. But you've still got the 4 people if you're tackling that.
Yeah, you've got 4, you're good to go,
That's right.
no matter what, and that was kind of the point. But the concern that was addressed to me was like, what if you have somebody who's only got 3? And so they're stopped.
Sure.
Well, they sit there and go, well, I'll tell you what, I'll change the bylaws and make it back to 3. And then you come back and say, let's have a vote, and I have 3. And so it's like, you realize somebody's got a way to get around to your protections.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I mean, maybe let me put it this way, I don't think that your double vote is good enough, and I think you're gonna need to vote in 2 consecutive meetings to have 4/5, and then you have to have 2 motions of 4/5 in order to change the bylaws for this, and then you can do this other vote. So you have 2 votes, and then this, maybe that's not enough, maybe we have to have 3 votes per meeting on whether or not we can change it. I mean, if you got the votes, you got the vote, no matter how many times you vote on it. you can put in as many votes as you want, but this, what the 1/4 vote covers it. You can ask for it, or you can, what you're doing is just asking for that repeated.
Okay, whatever. But again, I think 4 is stronger than 3, and that's where, right now, we just got 3.
Okay.
And so I want to give it some sort of strength. And like I said, if it can be stronger, I'm always up for that. But at the end, if it's not perfect, anything's better than just leaving it vulnerable.
Well, those are my thoughts. I don't think, I understand your original, I understand your original intent. I don't think that is what I'm reading here.
You want to change some, I mean, after all I know is the intent. As far as the wording, I'm an amateur, so.
Yeah, well, and me too. And so this is, I don't know if it's partly my problem. This has not been my focus since it was, like I said before, but I'm sorry, I'm not prepared since there was everything else to offer something. I really just saw it today. So I can say it needs to have extraterritorial service in there someplace if that's your intent. But I
Would say like taking out the service plan and say extraterritorial service. Is that a terminology that would be meeting the concern, plugging the gap?
I thought that was the original intent, Dave.
Well, yeah.
Why don't you strike that and put this out?
Well, so as far as wide service plan instead of extraterritorial, one of my so-called lawyer friends made that suggestion, of course,
Well, do we want to
So look,
revert?
I made the motion off of the agenda item, which does not align up with this here. So the motion stands on Director Morgan's previous, you brought this up several months ago, or probably even longer. So this is the motion here.
well, I don't have any language for that to require, is that,
Can we either withdraw or just vote and say no and do it next month?
There's a motion on the floor, it's been seconded, we're having a discussion. I'm not prepared to withdraw. I'm gonna vote.
Let's vote.
I don't, okay, so this, what you're saying here, it doesn't actually propose language to amend the bylaws. This, we had the previous posting that went along with this, and
It's
as,
amendment to the bylaws, section 8, conduct of business, subsection B, to require a supermajority vote of 4 directors in matters of new extraterritorial service after January 5th. That was my motion.
Well, so then do we have to have a specific written thing, or can we go from that motion?
Dylan, is there enough language off of the agenda? I mean, I think that's pretty explicit. It does refer to the bylaws and the section and everything, and that's why I was prepared to vote on this, and you had changed it. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think the language of 10 sub B is sufficient to vote on, but I think then you're just delaying the, I'm gonna be crafting that language and you're gonna be approving it at the next meeting. So I think either way, you're going to be approving language at the next meeting. Whether it's my crafting or Director Whitman's first or second proposal.
Well, I'm fine with what we got in the agenda. And then if I want to flesh it out with the lawyers, strikes me as a better approach at this point.
Okay. You're okay?
no, so.
I am gonna call on this here in a second.
Well,
Sorry, we should vote. I am gonna call. You can vote no.
I think we should vote.
It seems like a legal problem to have a specially crafted service after January 15th, which just so happens to be something that we are kind of in a legal dispute about. Is it aimed at that litigation?
I think it probably arises because of that dispute, yes.
Will this harm our lien anything?
I don't believe so. Because this is an amendment to the bylaws.
If I motion to amend the motion on the table to strike the date, is that enough, or is it too late, it's on the record?
You could move, so
It would protect the district, kind of.
it would make more sense to me as a motion.
All right, then I motion to amend the motion on the table to remove after January 15th.
I will second that. Okay, so we've had discussion. I'm gonna call the vote with the amendment to the motion that was approved. All in favor of the motion and the amendment to the motion, say aye. Aye. We have 4 ayes, 1 nay, so the motion passes.
With the
Okay.
understanding that we will approve language.
I will prepare language for the amended bylaws and present it to the board in advance of the next meeting.
Okay, now we're on 10C, which is financial study for infrastructure replacement.
I would like to put on our radar again that we need to do a financial study of how we're gonna pay for all of these things. At this point, I think our options are looking at a company like Graftellis or possibly HDR. Graftellis does have our full financials. But I do not believe that we can move forward with this until we get that FICA plan and we get a capital improvement plan. That is what held us up on the tax fees. So we need to move on these items before we can take the next step. So unless there's any
And
questions.
actually the FICA plan will roll itself up. I mean, you know, you just have to delineate. It's pretty simple. You can spend so much per year and what's your, you have what's above the line and what's below the line, and that, what's left up is how much you want to spend each year. That's what changes, and there's no magic to that. No one likes what they see, but that's what the FICA plan does for you.
Yeah, I'll prioritize it. We're using it to prioritize. We're just waiting for some engineering data. We know what we need out there, but the whole purpose of the HDR study was, like we said before, passed, this is the first time in American history that they passed a bipartisan infrastructure law, and it provided billions and billions of dollars for the repair of water infrastructure. And we're missing the boat on that to get some loan forgiveness money. In order to get that money, first we applied for it, which we did, and the second step is we need an engineering firm to submit a proposal to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment that says, hey, we want to replace these water distribution lines and these wastewater lines, and do we qualify for loan forgiveness money? And that was the end of the January 10th HDR presentation, that it looks like Green Mountain does actually can get approved for loan forgiveness money in the preliminary study. So that's in that HDR report.
You okay with that, or with the HDR thing? I mean, we're kind of already moving down that road anyway, right? And I thought that's what the report was when they came out with us.
Yeah, they just gave us a bunch of options.
Here's the thing, so if GPA is gonna be, if they're like just swamped and they're not able to like get whatever you need done, I think you need to move into a different engineering house and make this a priority, somebody that can, get you some quick action on that.
Oh, yeah, we could talk to Raptillis too to see if they did it. I mean, Aurora Water just, they were all over the news with the mayor and one of the congressmen to show they received millions of dollars from the bipartisan infrastructure bill to fund a pump station. So the money's being handed out.
Okay, well, I think we're on hold until we get that FICA and can do that capital.
Well, so let's talk to Jeff. I mean, it's like, so we need, I'm hearing what you're saying and
And
with
you
the
see-
board, yeah.
He can make it happen,
Yeah.
or he can, you.
With
take a look
it,
at
so
it.
if we use HDR, we can move forward with that, or are we still missing an engineering study?
Actually, Sam just sent me information. Sam's been working a lot on the FICA study. Below lines are looking great from price per foot estimate. So Sam we are getting that data for, Sam's listening in the other room. So we are getting the data from JVA Engineering for the FICA data sheet. He's filling it in. And, you know, keep in mind, HDR, the FICA plan is for us to list priorities on where to spend the money. It's a worksheet that, once we plug in all the data, it becomes automatic and color coded. Here's your hot priority areas that we can change. So HDR's job is to say, you know, we tell them, hey, we want, or any engineering company, doesn't matter, we're all doing it. You know, hey, we want to see if we qualify for money to replace the 6-inch cast iron water line in Atlantic for loan forgiveness, if we want to go loan forgiveness, or if we want to go loan interest loans. And they look at it, they apply, and then the state will look at our demographics to see if we qualify for loan forgiveness. So it's just a matter of getting that engineering report on something like Atlantic in there to see if we qualify for that money. But the FICA sheet was just giving us a long-term priority plan on what should be our top priorities.
These are two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm here, yeah, and I agree. So, you know, what's always missing here, I like to make things time bound, Jeff. You know, it's like, what could be a reasonable expectation to where we can start? We need to engage some engineering house with a target date to get back to the board on what we're gonna actually attempt to go get out of this bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Okay, so, you know, the options from the HDR report listed all the options, and should we try to target, you know, if you go back to that January 10th meeting with the HDR engineer, he said he thought Green Mountain could qualify for loan forgiveness. So
Right.
all we have to do is go back to HDR and say, hey, can you see if we qualify for loan forgiveness to replace these cast iron water systems in Green Mountain?
So does that require a motion by somebody, Dylan, to, you know, have him? Okay, I would like to make a motion to authorize HDR based off of the January board meeting to move forward with the bipartisan. There was some targeted money we had for the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Yeah, you need to submit the projects to see if you qualify. You're at this stage. And
Yeah, I just want to,
And then you'll make a decision, you know, if you're offered loans, low interest loans or loan forgiveness opportunities, then you'll make the decision whether you want to participate in that funding opportunity.
so I have to authorize somebody to do it though, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's the motion. Okay, do I have a second?
I will second.
We have a second, do we have discussion?
We're authorizing somebody to do what?
Submit the.
To submit,
project.
so we can try to get some of the low.
Okay, not to do the study,
Right.
to submit okay, but we don't have the study done yet.
No, there,
Right, you're submitting the project. And the state will review the project, the district demographics to determine whether you are a sufficiently impoverished community,
Yes.
and you're eligible for funding opportunities. The state will present you with whatever funding opportunities you're eligible for.
But I'm sorry, I thought I was hearing that we needed to have a project like Atlantic in mind,
Yes.
which we do not have a study for.
You need to submit a project. You don't need to substantiate a reason for the project other than that it improves your water quality or your infrastructure.
so HDR had identified
Like,
a path for Green Mountain back in January for us to attempt. They had discussed several categories, but there was a specific.
We provided HDR engineering with the beginning of the FICA sheet. And also the spreadsheets for Excel with the master plans for water and sewer. So they have a lot of the data already. So we And now that I see this data from Sam, he actually has listed all the age of pipes, so we're almost done with the FICA, completely done with the FICA sheet, so we'll go back to HDR, saying, hey, here's the project, here's the distribution system we want, can we apply for loan forgiveness for that project? Just like Dylan said, Colorado Department of Health will say yes or no on loan forgiveness, or here's your other options.
I will not be voting for this because my understanding was that we needed to do this as a big project package deal, that they would do loan forgiveness. We couldn't do it for one pipe. We needed to do it as like $10 million worth of funding is what they were looking for. We needed to structure it like that. So until I see what projects that we're doing and that we actually have a plan, or I'm just throwing stuff at a wall.
No, I'm not throwing stuff at a
We
wall.
don't
He just gave you an example. You do throw a project. You have HDR, they had identified a group or a category that they thought we could possibly go after.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm talking about. And we're gonna keep talking about this. It'll be another year before anything even happens. And do we miss the boat on the bipartisan infrastructure bill if we could even get on it? And that's my concern. There are things that are just time bound, and you know, the speed we move, sometimes we miss opportunities. So that's why I motioned on it. Any further discussion?
What is your assessment of Jeff's argument about the time element?
Well, I know for a fact that I have a lot of, people I talk to, they're getting money right now as we speak from the bipartisan.
Yeah, my national,
But it's a 3 years, so it goes, they'll be giving away money for 3 years. So we started the ball, we applied for money for water distribution and wastewater collection. The state approved that. So now the next step is to get engineering to say specifically, this is what we want to do. If we want to try to get money for Atlantic or Kentucky, we apply specifically for that money, and they approve either loan forgiveness or an low interest loan, and then it goes back to the board if you want to go that route.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
No.
We have 4 ayes, 0, 1 nay. The motion passes. Okay. Discussion of board vacancies. So I mentioned to everybody, I'm taking up residency in Bailey, Colorado. Probably at this point effective April 25th, I will no longer be a resident of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District. So talking about replacement of my vacancy.
So just some background, a vacancy is effective immediately without action of the board. So as soon as Jeff is.
immediately be the 25th, not today.
Exactly. As soon as Jeff is no longer a resident of the district, his position is vacant. That may, it sounds like, occur before the election. The election is going to have no effect on the vacancy. The vacancy will persist until it's filled by the board or until the next regular election, not May of 2023. So the board can fill the vacancy at its next regular or special meeting following the occurrence of the vacancy.
Any discussion?
Unless your buyer's back out.
Yeah. Well, I'm up there now.
Yeah, you'll still own property.
Yeah.
You'll still be on.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah, get rid of me that easy. All right, no discussion. Or is the rest of my agenda?
All the good stuff.
What's that?
It's all the good stuff on page 3.
I don't know what there's so many papers.
White sheet.
Thanks, buddy. All right, so we'll close agenda item number 10. We go to agenda item 11, legal matters. Dylan, you're on deck.
All right, thanks. So, like I mentioned, you do have the election coming up. It is a contested election. At this point, the only way the election would not occur is if one of the candidates withdrews their self-nomination form. CRS is handling your election as DEO. I did contact them and ask them to check the voters lists that they got from Jefferson County Elections Division, just to make sure that the errors last year are not replicated this year. I haven't heard back from them, but they only got their lists recently. Ballots will be going out either end of this week or beginning of next week. I forget the specific day. But election season is on. You've already incurred the postage. It was on your financial report this month. No. Well, you know, election day isn't technically the end. There's about 10 days after the election during which overseas ballots can come rolling in, or there could be a partial recount. So, like service members.
I understand.
Yeah, so, but really, you'll probably know the results of the election on election night. With a district as large as yours, those outliers are pretty minimal in terms of percentage. Any questions on that? I sent, at the last board meeting, Director Morgan asked for a general litigation update. So I will give that, but I also have one matter that came up kind of today. It's the 1078 Alpine. I forwarded you an email that I received last night from current attorney for 1078 Alpine developer. It's a request essentially for a variance of the contribution.
Probably drinking, you know?
So that was not on the agenda. If you didn't see that email, I'm happy to go through it. If you want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, we were at roughly 117,000, correct?
You were at 111,000 for the capital improvement contribution. The fees, the normal fees are 230,000. Right. So that's,
So is anyone opposed asking for what we're asking everybody to pay?
Yeah, the question is, why would we be getting the break?
Well, that's what I'm just wondering, if we could actually vote on this tonight. Or do we have to put it as a,
Or is this executive
can we
session?
vote on the response?
this is not on the agenda. I don't think it would be appropriate to vote on it, frankly. But I do think it would be appropriate for you to ask me any questions that you have, and to provide me any guidance that you would like me to have in responding to this.
I think we just stay consistent, you know.
I agree. I think we need to hold our ground.
You start talking about variance or whatever, you're favoring one and possibly not favoring the other. And, you know, everything about this, what we keep trying to do is make things, the lines very bright, right, Federal Center, we're trying to make bright, clear lines. And I think when you start making a variance or whatever, at least my position, where I sit on this, the rules are the rules.
I agree.
I'm happy to relay that to his attorney.
I think the lid is throwing me off.
Take some notes, just a moment. So, as a general litigation update, the district was sued by former council Joe Timmons in federal district court, alleging various civil rights violations, essentially.
Is this new stuff or?
This is the trade, so I'm going to.
Because I thought
I'm
that.
providing the background for the current status of it.
Okay, but there was a lawsuit, I thought it was all done.
Yes. So, former council Timmons sued the district in federal district court and sued John Anderson. The lawsuit against the district and the district directors was dismissed.
Okay, so that-
The deadline for the appeal was April 6th, and that passed without appeal. So as far as the district and the directors are concerned, that litigation has been terminated. Any personal or district liability is ceased. however, is ongoing against John Henderson. There are claims surviving that she asserted against him that weren't part of the dismissal order benefiting the district.
So this is lawsuit involved.
Potentially. So you're not, the district is not a party to the litigation, but because it involves district participation, it's possible that directors, district manager, former district manager, Kropkowski, or others could be subpoenaed for documents, definitely deposed, otherwise need to participate in litigation. So Bill O'Connell, who is insurance counsel for the district and the directors, is remaining on the payroll of the suit in case any of that happens. I did talk to John Corrigan, who's the attorney for John Henderson, just about the status of discovery. That's still uncertain. That they don't know if they're going to do discovery. If there is discovery requests made at the district, I'll be participating in that, and I'll let you all know, and I'll coordinate that. But that's the overall, the overview of that litigation. Ancillary to that, the district is also still suing the former general counsel firm, Eisnodel Seaver Poe, for malpractice based on their representation of the district in its execution negotiation of the Big Sky IGA. Because you don't know the outcome of the Big Sky litigation, that case is just stay. Every 6 months, I file a report with the court saying, yes, it's stay. At the end of April, I'm going to file another status report that's going to be slightly different because it's going to contain an update about the opinion for the Court of Appeals, stating that it's being returned to trial, but nevertheless should continue to be stayed. That comes to the Big Sky case. Court of Appeals issued its opinion. It has not issued its mandate, which returns jurisdiction to trial. That's going to happen early May. So you have about a month here where nothing will happen, essentially. There were some pleadings today, some attorneys entered their appearance, and some attorneys came off. I think that that's just like personnel shuffling at the law firms that are involved. In May, that litigation is going to ramp up again with whatever counsel the board hires to do that. The last matter is the board did instruct my firm to initiate litigation against the participants in the Red Sun tank matter. John Cody, my partner, is handling that. His initial step in that was to submit a claim on the bond. There was two-part direction from the board to initiate a suit and also to make that claim on the bond. We did, they have insurance, well, Liberty Mutual is the surety there. We're in communication with their attorney. They're putting together some documents. John and Jeff are working on that together to get those documents to them. John is preparing the complaint for the litigation itself. So 2 tracks there, and we're real update. And that's all of the active litigation so far, unless anybody's done anything lately that you haven't told me about.
All right. Thank you. We're going to move to.
Well, I'm happy to take questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have a question, but before we move into executive session, if we close this one out, the whole board just had a collective brain fart, and you would announce that you were leaving, and we didn't discuss what was going on. I guess I was expecting something more.
Well,
Now what?
So you know what, I would, can I make a motion for my replacement?
No,
Nope, then I don't have anything to say.
there is no vacancy to be discussed yet.
Okay, until I'm actually out of the district. Okay.
Right.
Can we, since we know that that will be coming, can we say that we will be, last time we had vacancies, we had resignations and they were abrupt, but we took applications or resident, whatever. We asked for a paragraph of who you are. And people came
For
in,
people who are interested in.
for
being
people
on
who
the
are
board.
interested in being considered. And then we had a meeting of interviews.
Sure.
Or
I think it would be perfectly appropriate to solicit interested members of the community to make their interest known in a potential vacancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we do that and then have that on the agenda for the next meeting? I would suggest doing that and putting that on the website tomorrow to say that we will have a vacancy and we are considering, please send a paragraph of your statement of interest and be available for an interview at the May meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
And if it were one of the candidates during the election.
That would.
I'll be sending mine in just in case.
Because there will be two candidates elected, one won't be. So if whoever the candidate is that is not elected wants to be appointed, I think that would be fine for them to submit their interest also. I wouldn't presume that they're interested.
The people who ran the last time did not, as you gentlemen know, that you did not apply for the vacancy. So it just needed to be.
Actually, I did, but that's,
Did you? Yes, so I don't remember. I apologize.
it all is the same.
So we can't presume, but we need to do that. So what do you think? Is that an okay process?
Sure.
Same as last time?
Is there any motion?
I motion to announce on the website that we are open to candidates to replace a board vacancy. That will be an anticipated vacancy to be placed on our website and interviews to be conducted at the May regular meeting.
Going to put a timestamp on that,
Good call.
like you get a 3-minute bio or something. No,
Yeah.
you're not here for 12 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Wait, 200 words is what we have.
Just
Massive.
a written statement.
Well, when you talk about timestamp, you probably also say, when do they have to say that they're interested? And they come right up until 6 o'clock on.
You need to make everything time bound, so the motion is to have this done tomorrow, to announce it, 200 words by April 21st.
Wow.
May 3rd would give us a week
Well, I think
to
it's,
consider.
Well, I'm saying you have to have your application into Jeff Tyus by like April 21st for the next board meeting.
well, what occurs to me is the people that are running, they won't know whether they're.
Doesn't
looking
matter. Put 2 poles in the water. That's what Karen's doing, right? It's not rocket science.
How about the end of April? That'll still give us 2 weeks to review. April 28th.
April 28th. So is the motion cloudy enough there, Jeff?
No, I haven't. So tomorrow we'll post on the website, please submit a 200-word bio to be interviewed for board vacancy by April 28th. And all candidates will be reviewed at the next regular board meeting, May 9th, or May 9th.
That's not good.
Yeah, did anybody else find the date faster than me?
It's Friday.
Oh, so that works. Yay. Perfect, thank you.
I will second that motion. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5 ayes, 0 nays, motion passes.
Thank you for going backwards.
Okay, we're on agenda item number 12. I'm going to motion that we go into executive session for receiving legal advice regarding Big Sky case, Timmons case, and Ravine Bridge.
Which one are we doing first?
We have to go into 3 executive sessions.
Well, these are gonna be, at least the way I'm perceiving that, these are gonna be pretty substantially different discussions. But they're gonna involve all the same people, so, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. We have discussion. No discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
As the district's attorney, it is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication. I am therefore recommending that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded. The time is now 8:31, and I am requesting that the recording be terminated at this time. All right. The time is now 9:46, and I have asked that the recording be resumed because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors, Jeff Tyus, district manager, and myself, general counsel for the district. The topic of the executive session was to receive legal advice regarding litigation matters pending for the district pursuant to CRS 24-6402, sub 4, sub E. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. As an additional note, the open session was conducted here in the shop of the district, and we conducted the executive session in the boardroom. It was not recorded because it was privileged. Seeing no objections, the next agenda item is 13.
We have.
Just pick one and go.
I'd like to make a motion in choosing a law firm for moving forward with the Big Sky litigation. And I am going to move that we use the Ogborn firm because I think that we need to have the most aggressive representation that we can get at this time.
I will second the motion. Discussion.
As a matter of discussion, the issue came up on whether or not we wanted to, that this was a logical place to change our legal representation if we needed to, now that we go back to district court. And we've got some learning behind us. We did take into account the knowledge that we have gained, and we will be sorry to be losing Mr. Gessler from that perspective. He has done a fine job for us. We have no complaints, but this is a big job, and this an aggressive firm that has the time and staff to handle it may be better for the district at this point, I do believe.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. We have 5 ayes, so you know how your marching orders are, Bill.
Yep, I'll reach out to that firm and engage them.
And I will motion to pass on a written response to the city of Lakewood on their latest proposal, the language of which I will clean up because I can paraphrase in discussion.
Going to give us a paraphrase.
The paraphrase, because what I have sketched out now, that Green Mountain can agree on Lakewood ownership and liability issues as Lakewood proposed, but stand by the cost sharing and trail management needs that our February 22nd proposal includes. Without those, we do not have an agreement.
I'll second the motion. We have discussion. No further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. We have 5 ayes. The motion passes. I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters, district manager. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. We have discussion. No discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. We will now move into executive session.
So an executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel matters needs to be for a specific personnel individual or individuals who are identified. This is identified the district manager, Jeff Tyus. A personnel matter can only be considered an executive session with the consent of the individual identified. So if district manager Jeff Tyus would like, this could be held in open session rather than executive session.
Open session.
Okay, so this will continue to be recorded. It'll be an open session, notwithstanding the vote to go into executive session. So consider it open.
I asked for this meeting for, at the time, one main reason, but others have kind of developed. I would like to discuss what is going on with the ravine. I guess I can throw these around. Per emails on the ravine permit, we asked for status and you very properly gave us some information about what was going on with the permits, which I do appreciate. But I am concerned that we are still using Merrick after the board specifically banned them. So I'm looking for an explanation.
So the ravines barricades were started by Merrick, and they were banned on the design. So we banned Merrick on the design and created an RFP for the design of ravines. And Josh, the field supervisor, has been working directly with the city of Lakewood to push the permit through. And we're paying for the barricades directly towards Mike Morton, the fabricator. We're paying them directly, so they're working for us. So I will make sure we limit Merrick's work on the barricades. They have no work to do with the design, and they should have very little work to do. They started the initiation. They started the barricades before the board voted to eliminate them completely. So we'll make sure they're worked out of the barricades. So number one, Green Mountain Water is paid directly, the fabricator directly, and number two, Green Mountain staff is working hard to push the permit through for the barricades, and we'll eventually work out the Merrick completely out of the loop on this project.
Thank you. I think that would be appropriate. I think that would be better to do immediately.
Yeah, and I apologize. Please don't assume the negative on me, because I'm working very hard to make sure Merrick is out of the loop and making sure we have all their documents. So we're not purposely going against the board in any way. We never will. The staff is working very hard to do what the board asks, and I'm working very hard to do what the board asks too. So, and we're working with JVA, and we're slowly, Merrick knows we're slowly phasing them out.
Which is understandable, except that we're not doing it slowly anymore, and that was the board vote. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
Oh yeah, Merrick only, right now, they're only working on Bear Creek sewer line. It's been going on for 2 years, so they'll be done with that. And they're working on Kipling, which they were already involved with. And once that's done, they'll be out of the loop completely.
Because these emails show that there were other options, even Merrick had originally asked you to just work directly and not involve them. So that was one. These are, but then along that same line, and when we saw this for due diligence, and I know it sounds like you're thinking, let me explain. I have emails on the Fed Center explanation of what the due diligence has. You passed along Merrick's contact for RTD information. It makes sense when I hear legal counsel say that Merrick would possibly act as the engineer for the developer, it does not make sense when I see that we are still referring to Merrick for questions on things that we should know, and we did actually talk about this. I can understand you not wanting to answer engineering questions, except that that is a bit of the reason why we hired you with your engineering experience to be able to step into some of these breaches.
These are all false statements because Merrick Engineering was the original engineer on this project dated way back to 2004. So this question relates to what they did years ago with the RTD track. So they were the original engineering firm on that. So if the developer is asking questions, the specific question is, was anything done regarding the RTD tracks with water or sewer to go underneath it? That's a question referring, was anything done in the past? There was a lot of engineering work done on that. That whole project was done by Merrick Engineering. So I only referred the developer to that Merrick Engineering for that work that could have been done on the past if there was any done on those tracks, because based on our new development procedures, everything would have to be redone anyway and approved by us and in our pick of engineering company. So it has nothing to do with us being experts on how to go under tracks at the present time. It has everything to do with, was there anything done in the original study? That's what they're referring to.
I understand. What I'm referring to is that it would be appropriate at this time. This is when you lean on documents, when you say, this is what we can tell you now, and here's the old study, which is our property as a contracted study. So rather than, since we have a problem with more interpretation and possibilities that come out when developers talk directly to Merrick, which has been discussed before. And that was one of those things that we wanted to curtail, not having those conversations.
Well, yeah, you know, I'm listed on, my name, Jeffrey Paul Tice, is listed under transparency notice. So I have to be most transparent as possible. So I'm being transparent based on those past documents, but I'm also being transparent based on present documents. Saying, yes, Merrick did a lot of work on this in the past. You can refer to them for their expert knowledge on what they thought of in the past. And oh, by the way, moving forward, you have to go by our new standard operating procedures and our new rules and regulations and our review process. So I'm just trying to be transparent.
And transparency is good, which leads me to my third overall desire is that when I find the communication needs to be done like we're doing, and we're talking, we're emailing, we're doing it in our own words. So I said this before in open session. In this due diligence packet, there's a bunch of questions, 1, 2, 3 questions. I didn't find all the answers to. I know you included a lot of the documents, but reading documents is a little bit different. Since we have you, this is, and I'm going to make the argument that this is an appropriate place to write a 2-page essay explaining what we know for every specific $30 million project that's going into our district, as opposed to leaning on standard disclaimers and hoping that everybody understands the same thing you do out of the documents. And I think we had this conversation about the El Cairo development. As we said, I think it makes a difference when you point out things that are specific to the property and you do that in your rules, in your own words, in an effort to communicate. So I understand that you passed on the documents and you explained all that very well, but I know I pointed out several things that I had hoped to have communicated before the closure. And I didn't see that. You said that you would come back if they asked any questions, but I didn't see answers to even my questions, like what else did you send them? So I just like to see some increased communication in your own words and explanations is what would, I think, help the situation going forward.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Keep in mind too, I work directly with my team every day to approve the communications we send out like this, and I bug Dylan all day long with all this stuff. I mean, Dylan, what is this? What is this? So just because a developer, I've been in this field a long time, so developers are in it to try to get something. The questions the developers asking are for their benefit. So I'm not gonna fall into their development trap by answering their questions. I'm just gonna say, hey, here's our rules and regs, here's our standing operating procedures, here's our new development procedures, here's our water and sewer certificates. They're self-explanatory. We don't need to say anything on an email. Remember, emails are legal documents. I don't want to say anything in an email that could counteract these legal documents that have been in place that everybody's worked so hard on. Keep in mind, you guys approve the rules and regs, Dylan approves them. All these documents, the water and sewer certificates, they're all approved. So if we stick with those documents, it creates a lot less stress and a lot less issues for the district, meaning here's all the documents. And then if they have specific questions about the documents, they can reply to that. You guys, I wish you wouldn't beat me up over 1078 South Alcar. I mean, I emailed all those documents to them, and they're doing a lot of their attorneys are scrambling to figure out how to go through those documents. They can't, they haven't figured it. Now they're starting to negotiate with money. So it's the same way. These documents, a lot of time and effort have been put in to protect the district using these documents. And new development, we don't need to fall into their questions. We say, no, here's our documents, here's our procedures. The first thing they want to know is, was there agreement? They're looking at an agreement that was signed between 2004 to 2009 to see if they got any freebies. That's what they're looking at. They're looking at something to see, hey, if you look at those questions, one of those questions was, did Green Mountain have any money set aside to do this? Meaning they're making things up, okay? So I don't want to fall into the trap of some developer trying to trap us to paying for something. What I want to do is, here's our rules and regs, here's our latest and greatest water and sewer certificates, here's our standard operating procedures, here's our standards. It's all rock solid. We're backing them up, and you got to fall within those, because guess what? Exhibit B, whether it be 2004 or 2009, says we don't have to pay for anything. It tells me. If Dylan tells me, guess what, Jeff, we're gonna have to pay for something, then I'm gonna have to dig more into it. But right now, we're not legally having to pay for anything. Our rules and regs stand by, and everything stand by. So regardless if I write a 10-page essay or 2-page essay, our rules, everything stands up. We don't have, it meets our goals. Our goal is developers pay their way, and we don't have to go broke, and we don't have to lose capacity by doing it. And I'm on your guys' side. So please don't beat me up all the time. I'm doing everything you can to show I support the district, I support the board. So
Jeff, I agree with you, and Karen, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on writing an opinion. I think that's a slippery slope to put anybody a single point, especially putting the district manager. The rules and regulations and the documents stand on themselves. If he were to add himself into that formula somehow and actually put out an opinion, because that's what it would be, on some level, he's having to give his interpretation of what he sees, what he knows. And then that goes out, and if that goes sideways, then he's in a jam. And we keep talking about many times tonight, if we just stick to the rules and the regulations and don't do variances, you will not have the issues. So I do support what you're saying, and I have to disagree with you on the putting out an opinion to contractors that are actually fully staffed. Their job, they have development project managers, that is their sole purpose, is to interpret what the rules and regulations and whatnot. And they develop a bid, they work on the project. I've heard tonight, some of them go for 5 years, some of them go longer. There are people that do long-term projects They get the documents, they have the project they want to do, and that's what they do. They work on the fine tuning of that. But that would be a lot to ask of a manager.
Let me throw in a perspective, I spent 30 years with the government, and my first instinct as a person is I want to be open, transparent, and communicative, and that's what gets me in trouble. But anyway, what I learned during my 30 years, what they were telling us all the time is nothing more than absolutely required. As soon as you go a little bit beyond, you open yourself up, because these guys are looking for something, and they're gonna be on every word. And so that's why everything we did, ran it by our lawyers and everything, and then it was boilerplate. And of course, it was very frustrating to a creative person like me. Boilerplate was like, any word that's different from this could be opening up a can of worms and da 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 da. Right, wrong, and different. That was what I got out of my government career, was straight and narrow, avoid this explanation sort of stuff, you know. Anyway, apologies.
And in that way, I'm gonna say, I don't know that why we would need a manager point of contact, because they're pulling together documents, and that again is just not communication. I would think that my argument will remain that there is a way to say, we discussed, you looked into, can't build underneath the RTD tracks. You told us this, but didn't make it known to other people. We heard that GSA was not honoring their agreement and can't go to the southeast side any longer. So that engineering will not do. We do not know how we could properly service this area without a lift station. We were looking at millions of dollars, and there must be some way of saying the existing documents are here for your reference. We have heard these items. They will bear further study, which you will be responsible for, and that is what is in the documents that you will have to do. But be aware that there are potential issues that you will have to look into. And that's what you would be saying.
Well, this is an alternative. If there appears to be an opportunity to elaborate above and beyond, and it would be helpful for this elaboration, perhaps if you were to write up a draft, run it by legal, maybe run it by us, and if, you know, a number of eyes have looked at it, and we're confident that we're not opening up a new can of worms, no more, just the bare facts, maybe we can put out a little bit more. But again, like I say, you don't want to be too chatty.
Yeah, keep in mind, I'm not gonna speak for GSA. GSA needs to speak for themselves. If they want to know anything about GSA, they need to email GSA. And I'm not going to speak for RTD. RTD can speak for themselves. And I don't have any documentation, legal documentation that I know of. I don't, that shows we have anything to do with how to run water and sewer under the tracks. And if we did, it's before my time. It probably dates back to 2007, 2009. So it expired anyway. So I can't speak in GSA, that's a whole nother world. There's no way I'm gonna say GSA said that. There's no way. I wouldn't do that here at Green Mountain. I wouldn't do it at Aurora Water. I wouldn't do it at Arapahoe County Water. That's unprofessional.
Well,
I'm only gonna speak to the things that my job is responsible for, not for what GSA does, not for RTD does, and not for what Merrick has already done their engineering stuff as.
well, then let's not bring that speculation into the board, thinking that we had done any of that, because we had these.
What speculation? I don't understand speculation. I must have missed that part. What speculation is that?
Where am I? The speculation when you brought all this to our attention before.
That's the developer brought all that, and my response was, the developer asked all those questions, and my response was short and simple, and without answering these questions. It's that the developer brought that up. It wasn't me. I was just passing the information along for the developer asked these questions. I provided these 7 documents that are rock solid, that are legal documents, that we're up to date now. That's all it was. The developer brought those type of questions on me.
I'm not referring to now, I'm referring to months ago when we started these conversations. But I just needed to get those on the record. Merrick shouldn't be using anymore. And I will always be wondering if the sale would have gone through on the Fed Center if we had known, if the developer had known of all of our concerns.
I feel like you're trying to blame me for something, like.
As
what
I
do you-
said, I want to have some increased communication on the,
What do you,
But that is-
what would you want increased on the communication, Karen? You know, I'm just struggling. I mean, I had to manage people and stuff like that, and that is a loaded question.
Well, and I'm like, yeah, I think that if the developer knew everything to do it, maybe it wouldn't have been so quick to buy. But on the other hand, he only asked us on Wednesday and said, you have 24 hours to give me everything I need, and then I'm jumping off the cliff. That's kind of his problem for being so damn impulsive and hasty.
well, it is.
I mean, I don't see how we could have saved it. I agree with you.
All this information is on our website. All this, all you have to do is go to our website, pull up all this. He was digging, the developer was looking for freebies. He was looking for things we could pay for, things in contracts, maybe something in a contract that was signed in the past that we're obligated to pay for. He didn't find it. We gave him the documentation. He went on his way. I'm sure more questions will arise, but we have to stick to that documentation.
Well,
So,
that's where I'm saying I disagree, and that's why I sent you a list of all of the potential issues that we had talked about, that may have been helpful in this situation on Thursday.
yeah, part of that list is I'm not going to answer for GSA. If he wants to know about GSA, he contact GSA directly. If he wants to know about how to run sewer, water, and sewer under RTD lines, he needs to contact RTD. I'm sure RTD has standard operating procedures and rules and regs, just like we do, how to run water and sewer lines under their tracks. I don't speak to that.
Okay?
Yeah, well, like I said before, I think it was a problem, but on the other hand, I don't think we're jumping into anything. If you get this message, you got 24 hours, that's all you got to work with. I mean, even I would screw that, that's the best way to do it.
I did try.
But I communicate with Dylan all the time on this stuff. You know, why would somebody email me and say, Daryl, this is for your information. Dylan emails me back and forth.
Dylan, would it have hurt the situation to have passed along my questions and cautions and said, we needed to study these are issues that have been brought to our attention, and a further study would be necessary?
I don't know that it would have hurt anything. I have another district that does, they're more, active, their build out is, they're much less built out, and there's a lot more, development going on there. And it seems like the way they have their structure, their communication structure set up is that, like this district traditionally had with Merrick, the engineer is the primary point of contact. And when they meet with the engineer for the initial conversations about the development process, the engineer does go through all of those. Hey, these are the things that I see coming up. Here are the issues that I know are attendant here. And the district manager, it's a much smaller staffed district, but the district manager doesn't really have much of a role in that. So here it's a little bit different because the board, my understanding is that the board wants the district manager to take a more public facing role. It's part of the hiring process for Jeff, who's brought on to be this public facing individual rather than relying on the engineer. So it's not really, you know, it's just what everybody's personality wants.
And keep in mind, if we were still with Merrick, with the way we ran Big Sky, that's what would happen. So they would, you know, 5 years ago, they would have emailed Merrick, and Merrick would have answered all the questions and let them on. So following direction from the board, we set up more, we added to the rules and regs, we added to new development procedures, we added to the water and sewer certificates. So we're more protected of our customers now than instead of letting engineering companies do another big sky where they're wagging, it's a tail wagging the dog like you talk about. We're protecting our customers better because Merrick proved from Big Sky, they were negotiating with the developer. So we're saying to developers, no, here's what you have to go through to get into our district. These are all new things, that we're not signing a will to, a will to serve letter. We're saying, here's our water and sewer certificates that's worded, you might have to pay up to 50% of the cost of capacity. So it's going to, the developer's going to look at that and say, well, wait a minute, if we build all this, we're going to have to pay for this infrastructure, and we might have to add on to this infrastructure. So that's what I've been following direction for the past 14 months. Is I've been trying to follow that direction. Is not let the engineers negotiate another Big Sky agreement. Is we're protected. Our customers are protected. We don't have capacity out there. We don't have enough storage tanks out there. We don't have enough pump stations out there. If we're going to build all this infrastructure on the Fed Center property, we need more storage tanks. We need more generators, just like we signed a generator today for the big pump station. That should have been, why didn't Lutheran Hospital pay for a generator on a pump station? What's a primary thing you want to supply water to all the time? A hospital. So we want to be more rock solid. So I'm not trying to cause, I feel like I've been beat up at this job for the last 14 months. It's like I'm not trying to cause any issues here. I'm trying to continuously improve and follow the direction of the board. And part of that is, email can be used against you. That's why every time we get a core request, they pull our emails, just like Director Wickman said. It's like, hey.
Like I said, that was my experience.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in it personally, but what I discovered is the more you say, the more the opportunity.
That's right. If I say something that counteracts our rules and regs, then we're liable. If I say something that counteracts our water and sewer certificates, we're liable. If I say, oh, well, we're holding 1078 South Alki responsible based on this water and sewer certificate, and oh, by the way, we won't do that, we're liable. I'm trying to do my best to take the liability away because we already have too many lawsuits. We're already spending, this district used to spend $50,000 a year on lawyers. We're going to be spending, last year we spent over $200,000 on lawyers. So I'm trying to build more solid documentation so we don't face lawsuits and keep things more simple so we don't face lawsuits, and also try to move forward on having development pay their way.
So what I heard was that it is normal for districts to have an engineer or somebody answer these kind of property-specific issues, and that even for Green Mountain, that was standard practice.
Yes.
In fact, I think that's part of the reason that Terry Kenyon favored the board is that he was overly helpful.
Overly helpful, and because that's why you were saying that he may be working for the developer on this case, which again comes back to maybe let's not point them in that direction from our side of things. So, all right. Thank you.
Any other further comments, statements? Okay, I think we're done with the personnel.
Yeah, you're still in open session. So
Okay, we're gonna close that. We're gonna go on to agenda item 15, new business notifications for next board meeting. Do we have any notifications or?
Yes.
Okay.
What was this for?
Do we have to do the
have
one with the language?
the new language to approve the resolution. Make sure
Supermajority.
that would be on. Yes, thank you. That was that. I think that was all for new language.
so next,
For-
it's gonna be post-election, so you're gonna need to do election of officers.
Okay. And I think that's it for new business from me, except to say, as the last meeting, thank you.
Thank you all.
You've had outstanding service to Green Mountain
Did we
Water.
buy him a trophy or anything?
I already ate it. It was an Easter bunny.
Yeah, the chocolate.
Its head, rear end was missing.
Yeah, that was
All right, I'm gonna motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? We have a second discussion. Our discussion, all in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
Yay.
Jeff, Sam, Jesse, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.